Boom. Boom.
My name is Spag, and I'm joined by absolute legends K-Wiz, 3DX, Joker, and SpeedKicks. Now, normally when we do this, no one knows who's going to speak first, so I'll just go with the guy who's new to Heat Speak. K-Wiz, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. Season 2 is on the horizon, and we have so much to say.
K-Wiz is way quieter
Absolutely.
than
No, we
Spag.
do. We have a very interesting episode for you guys today. Let me know as well, by the way, guys, how everyone's sounding. If anyone needs to be turned up a little bit, if their voice is a little bit low, or a little bit too high. 3DX, my friend, returning back to Heat Speak. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Exciting time. 1 week away.
Absolutely, man. Joker, what are you saying, man?
Good to be here again, man. We have a lot to talk about. I'm very excited to be present with some amazing guests like SpeedKicks.
why SpeedKicks in particular?
Shout out to SpeedKicks, man.
Shout outs to SpeedKicks. SpeedKicks, how you doing, my friend? Returning back to Heat Speak.
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me back on here. It's been quite a bit of time, but I hope we can have as much fun as we did last time.
Definitely. All right, man. So as you guys can see in the topics, we're going to be going over Pakistan versus Korea, and we're going to be talking about the Tekken talk that took place, as well as season 2 all in one go, man. So I guess we will start with Pakistan versus Korea. Guys, if you missed it, Pakistan versus Korea, one of the best
low-key, hold on,
exhibitions that I've been involved with, and one of the best I've ever seen, to be honest. Me and Joker were actually there to see Pakistan, a 3-day event. It was split over 3 days, so obviously we had exhibitions on day 1. Day 2 and 3 were the actual main tournament, where we had 2 different formats: the Waseda style format and then the Unleashed format.
Look, guys, I'm part of the podcast. Hooray!
To Pakistan. And this is something that's been, I guess, since 2019. Something that maybe people wanted to watch for a long time. And I'll start with you, Joker, because you
Joker. What you got to say on this?
How did you find that exhibition? And what's your thoughts about everything?
It was crazy, man. The game's a bit stale right now because we've just been waiting for season 2 for a while. But honestly, the exhibition just exceeded my expectations. I'm glad I was there to witness such a sick event. Shouts to Bars and Soup, of course. Yeah, man, it was just crazy. Like, something that really stood out to me was there were so many people and casuals in general, like people that have never watched Tekken before, that were present in the crowd, and just being able to speak with them and just talk to them about, how did they find out about the event and whatnot. It was so cool, and I think it's why regional rivalries are so important. That's something we might talk about later on and stuff. But yeah, shout out to SpeedKicks, of course.
SpeedKicks. I mean, since you guys actually watched it from home, I'm actually interested, since me and Joker were there. We didn't watch it on stream, but there was a lot of positive kind of feedback when it comes to Pakistan versus Korea, and you guys watching from home. How did you find it? Were you able to watch any of it, and how did you find it if you did?
So I was only able to catch like some of it because of time zones, and I had to like sleep. I can't give up my sleep. I'm getting old, So I could only catch like bits and pieces. I would like wake up, and I would like, for the first thing I would do when I would wake up is like rush to hear the results, right? Like who did what, who beat who. If there was a super good match I wanted to catch, like I would go back and like watch it. And I just heard there was literally nothing but like good vibes around it. I don't know. Like everyone was talking about it like it was the Tekken Super Bowl or something.
Tekken Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, it felt like that, man. I think the closer that we got to it, I remember speaking to CBM, and CBM's like, yeah, man. I mean, none of us feel really stressed about this exhibition, and then this is like maybe a month out or like 2 months out, and then closer and closer, and CBM messages me and he says, Spag, I think we're gonna lose, man. I'm scared. I was like, what's going on? Where was this urgency before, bro? PDX, I know you watched it from home as well, and you did some content around it. How did you find the event, man?
It was really cool. I think just on a base level, it was cool to see like Korean esports production. So like that was a really cool treat to see.
Yeah.
Especially for people who don't normally keep up with like the Soup Tekken League and things like that. So I thought that was really sweet. Yeah, the vibes are really, really cool. I think that we in the FGC, we don't get a lot of team style energy. It's always like this player versus this player. And I think maybe that contributes to the staleness of it, but also you can tell the players are kind of moving differently in a team format, like that. You see more moments of nerves. You see the coaching that happens in between. It was funny to me when I think Atif had 2 people coaching him at the same time, just like, you got this. And I was like, this is way more different of a vibe than a solo 1v1. I think that almost universally the feedback I was seeing was all so good. Like nobody was bored, and I think on top of that, we got to see the very, very end of the season 1 meta. So I think that most of our tournaments were very front loaded with recent changes and patches, and people just kind of swinging as much as they can with their main character, trying to see what's cheap. But by the end of this, we could see that, like, for example, the Koreans had downloaded when Arslan wanted to do a heat burst. So many of his heat bursts got sidestepped and he would get launched for it. And I feel like that's the kind of thing you only see sitting with a patch for a decent amount of time, studying your opponents for a long time, and then making those. So that was a really cool meta of Tekken outside of the regular TWT.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, seeing the level these guys were playing at, and I think that was really cool as well to see the Pakistan team because, you know, again, shouts to Bars and all the people that were involved in helping the Pakistanis to come down to Korea, because we actually got help from the government, which was really awesome for them to.
When
to
we see
help,
Lotus on Heat Speak is what I want to know.
Visas. Otherwise, it
Well, Spag and I don't really know each other,
seven
and I don't know if
Pakistanis
he thinks that I have anything
we were
worthwhile
considering to do a
contributing
10v10,
to this
and I was
type
talking
of
about it with Bars, you know,
podcast
should we
or
do 10v10?
content.
And then we're like, you know what?
If he were to
let's
invite
do
me,
7
I'd
because
gladly go on,
10
but you
might
know,
be a little bit
I ain't
difficult
nobody
when it comes
special.
to the visas, and 7 is a bit more manageable. So at least for the first time, let's try 7v7, and it worked out really well. Kwis, I know you watched it as well. I mean, how did you find Pakistan versus Korea? You yourself have been to Pakistan. You played versus these guys in multiple tournaments. How did you find it, man?
No, it was good. The whole event was sick. I think the only disappointing part for me is like the first 2 days not being really close. Like it was kind of blowouts. And obviously the first day of actual exhibition of team play, like that not being close was like crazy. Like Korea was getting blown out. But when it was finally close, the final day, like that was my favorite day. I was going back and forth. Like Numan is a demon.
Yeah.
I think that's the only he's a demon. He's not of this realm. That was crazy. But like yeah, it was a sick event. People been now clamoring for more team events and stuff like that. So I feel like team event, Nations Cup reminds of us Gamers 8. You know, that was a sick event. So I think it was run well. Bars and Soup did a good job. And the only downside was just time zone. Like that was awful to get through.
we started the event every day at 5 p.m. like around 5 p.m. Korean time. So I guess that was the only thing we can kind of do to so that it didn't end too late for us guys. And of course the crowd, there was a live crowd there as well, so you don't want to end. We ended around 10 p.m. every day, and you know, I think, you know, if you're dedicated enough, man, you'll stay up and watch that shit, man. Don't worry about it, man. Bro, Kobe, you watch UFC, bro. We stay up at like 3 a.m., 6 a.m. You can't be complaining about time zone, man. You cannot be complaining about time zones, bro. But, you know, yeah, again, like you said, the first 2 days, I mean, look, Knee, the way he played, I think that was probably the biggest story of that day number 1, and maybe one of the exhibition. And I really feel like his form, he started to play a lot better in Tekken 8, not even at that exhibition, but before that as well. I mean, if he had not dropped that combo against Nobi, I really feel like he might have won the LCQ for that Tekken World Tour Finals that we had in Japan as well. I mean, he has been playing a lot better. I mean, getting used to Brian, and I had him on Heat Speak, and I said to him, you know, what changed? And he goes, I just started to okay, how do I say this? How do I phrase this so that it doesn't sound? He said,
surprised inconsiderate raccoon pop up in this call. It's hilarious. Wait, raccoon showed up.
Yeah, and maybe that's because, you know, Brian is just really strong now. I mean, he has QC back 1 and Kurosaka forward 1+2. What do you guys think? You know, he said he needs. I mean, how have you guys found, you know, Knee and the difference between his playstyle now compared to in like the beginning of Tekken 8? Speakers, I'll ask you.
It's, and I mean, yeah, you can see, like he said, turning it like him thinking a little bit less, right? He is hesitating less on a lot of his decisions, right? Yeah. So you go from the Tekken 7 playstyle where you can kind of let a lot of interactions pass you, and like you can take some hits and like you kind of ignore stuff and look for the big hit. When Tekken 8, the things you don't contest, the moments you don't contest, the moments you don't make a decision, they all add up against you. You have to move faster, right? You have to decide faster. You have to live with your decisions. And he historically as a player likes to sort of give his opponent like a little bit of time while he figures out the decisions to make. And Tekken 8 now, he's just hitting the button. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, he dies, and he's fine with that. And
that's how you got to be in this
really
game,
cool
unfortunately.
As an adjustment.
Joe, could you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think it's also, I remember watching the exhibition between Arslan and Nia. Was it Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi last year. Yeah.
I just remember watching that and just seeing Knee not utilize heat at all, man. Like he'd die without using heat so many times.
He could still use his heat a lot better, which who am I to criticize how Knee utilizes heat? But at least he's using it now.
Man, because you can't play Tekken 8 without heat. It's such an important mechanic that the game revolves around, and you just have to make use of it, especially if you're playing a character like Brian.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's definitely gotten a lot more used to this game now, and the way he played, beating Arslan 10-2, I think it was, right? And and one of Arslan's win was with the Clive. And then they played again at the DRX office, and I think that was also a pretty big blowout when it comes to Knee. I mean, now Knee has the upper hand, it seems like, against
He's
Arslan.
finally playing the game, not real
But we'll
shit.
see if
Huge
that
difference in his
continues on
gameplay
to
now.
Season 2. I just want to ask one final question about this, because we all watch Pakistan vs. Korea. We don't need to talk too much about it, right, before we get onto the you know, the crux of this podcast. But was there any player aside from Naman, or you can say Naman if you want to, that really stood out to you at this exhibition? Kaius, I'll ask you.
You know, it's gonna sound almost silly because of how good he's been historically, but low high, because like
Low
he
high
came in at
spaz.
like a pivotal moment, and bro, he bodied Atif, and that's been so. Those two have been going back and forth for years now, and like, bro, when he just kept whiffing, throwing his face, and Atif was doing 1+2, and then he was launching with jet upper, like, and it just kept happening. It was like 3 times in a row he did it, and it worked every time. Like, he was just in control. Like, he was the guy I was expecting to go when Korea when they were on their last life. He was the guy I was expecting to step and take as how he did before. But like, you know, he's been so good for so many years. But like, the way he played and like he dominated, like it was very impressive considering like he's been playing against these Pakistanis for so long and not really had the upper hand a lot of times.
I agree on that 100%. And you know, one thing about low high is, and it's the same as it was in Tekken 7. If you ask the Koreans about low high, even ask low high himself, this guy plays, I think, 10 hours or 10 hours plus per day without fail, every single day. He's a grinder. This guy just grinds Tekken all the time. And I think he was interviewed recently as well. And I think someone asked him, like, what are your hobbies outside of Tekken? He goes, I have none, just Tekken. You know, he is just crazy about this game. He plays 10 hours per day. And that is why he's.
I used to be like that with DBFZ.
He's getting the hours in now. FDS,
Once upon a time.
What do you think? I mean, is there any other player? Is it low high as
I
well?
was still ass, but I really
stood out to
liked
you in
it.
this exhibition?
It was definitely low high Newman. I think Dejan also deserves shout outs for being so consistent in like literally just getting every win he needed for his team. But Newman really stood out to me, not only as like a kind of relatively new, I think for people who were loosely following Pakistan in Tekken 7, we hadn't heard of Newman. And then all of a sudden we see a Steve player. He's playing this style that is so different than the traditional Tekken 7 Steve that we're used to seeing. And he's succeeding so much more. I think Newman cemented himself as kind of the template for how to play Steve in Tekken 8, at least for Season 1. Yeah. I wanted to add that regarding Knee, we were like trying to navigate, like he said he's thinking less. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I want to call back to when he won EVO 2022 in one of his streams after his whole transcript got translated. And his conversation with Chanel, he was saying there are times between games in Tekken 7 too, where he would tell himself, this is not a situation where I need to just keep doing what I was doing and not let my thoughts like slow me down or interfere or change what I'm doing. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So even though Tekken 8 is a faster game, you have to make faster decisions. I think it's a testament to his experience as a competitor to just know when it's time to not.
You play Tekken on PS5? Yeah, predominantly. Actually, do I even have it on Steam?
Yeah,
I thought that.
I don't think
really
I've picked it up
cool
on Steam yet.
Adaptation to make.
Enter the in-game PS forms and try to win the avatars.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I completely missed that that's even a thing.
In 2020
Somehow
was probably.
I'll give it a shot.
The best Knee that we've seen in Tekken 7.
Deadline's
I
on
mean,
the
really
30th.
On point there. Joker.
Do I gotta register somewhere or what's up?
Everyone in the exhibition.
I'll give it a shot.
In and out of tournament. We both traveled to Pakistan multiple times now. 2021, 2022, and
You did within the game is super quick. Gotcha. I bet.
We've seen Noman, and I remember after Takra Cup.
Good looks, Mark, man. Hope you've been well, by the way.
And he won that, right?
I know you got a pair of those Big Head Origins I struck out today on sneakers, but it's alright though. I've gotten a few recent pickups that I'm happy with. So
and if it's Noman, like what was it about him that impressed you?
Can't be too upset.
I think Noman's starting to get more confident. I think everyone in Pakistan knows how strong he is.
Want the gold 9 ones that drop soon too? Yeah, I think the next release I'm looking forward to.
Besides the Pakistan vs. Korea, right? Where did he place it?
I don't think there's anything dropping for a while that I really want. I know I want the Grape 5s, the White Cement 4s, the Fire Red 5s, the Rare Air 4s. I forget the release order of those. I'm trying to think what else is coming out soon that I got my eyes on.
I think the two other players that stood out for me was the John. I think he closed out some very important wins against.
Oh yeah, the
beat
blue Jordan
and
SBs.
Ulsan 2-0.
Which one is your favorite of the three? Of the three colors, the friends and family red pair, the green pair, and the blue. I honestly think the green pair is probably the best, and I normally like blue and red more than I like green, but something about that green just hits for me. Blue, because I'm partial to blue. That's fair.
Which is just crazy, you know. And I just think he's gonna.
Yo, for sure, Ram. I appreciate you, homie.
In the near future,
Enjoy your alert.
In my opinion, I think he's like the shining star, one of the shining stars of Pakistan, and I really think he's just gonna go crazy next season.
I picked these up the other day, Mark, and I threw them on the feet, like basically immediately.
Without Akuma, you know, he's a 2D player.
But I managed to pick up the first Amam year 3s. I got the black pair, and I still haven't worn these, but I've always liked the white pair the most. I think this is the best shoe that they've done with Jordan, honestly, in my opinion.
Can't wait to see what he does. He's too speedy.
And yeah, this shoe is, I'm not gonna lie, man. This is This is one of the best Jordan 3s ever. I'm gonna keep it stacked.
And say Edge,
okay.
Because they on day one, and on day one they played Edge in was it the first to 5 versus the John?
Yeah.
And let me tell you,
Spiridons, yeah, I passed on those myself, but
the King Hwang matchup is not
because I don't think that's a shoe that I appreciate, but I don't think fits my personal style.
It's not. It does not feel good. I think to play against, you know, who is definitely the best king in the world, right? With John.
Also sitting next to me, I got
king player I can think of.
He's best.
Yeah,
another pair of lost and founds. I just picked these up yesterday.
When the first to 5 in that matchup, he was
a
down for a
brand
little
new
bit
DS
and
pair.
come back.
I actually just did a swap. I had a couple of 10.5s.
It was really
and I just swapped it out for an 11 because the 10.5 that I've been wearing.
So again, the format,
it's a little snug. I've been slowly but surely like swapping out a lot of like my shoes that have been fitting a little bit more snug lately and swapping them out for size 11. So recently found a dead stock 11. I have 2 pairs of those. I have 3 pairs now. But yeah.
So I don't know who was responsible for the Korean.
I traumatized myself by selling my 2015 pair, and then I had to wait until those came out to ever get another one. Hit on the unions.
Pakistan was surprised that based.
I did hit on the unions, actually. I won the raffle on the union website. And I fell asleep and missed the email. And when I woke up, they were gone. Yeah, so I was streaming. I was literally streaming, right? I had been up all night because I'm me, so of course. I had been up all night streaming and shit, and I stayed up until the release or till the raffle went live, right, on the union website. Put in my information, whatever. When you enter the raffle, I assume that you entered, but if you didn't, right, it's like, oh yeah, okay, if you get selected, you'll have like 3 hours to check out or whatever. So I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't even want to take a nap, but I ended up taking a nap. And I was like, all right, I'll take a nap for an hour or two. And at first I was sitting here waiting, and like an hour went by and I didn't get an email. So I was like, maybe I just took a L. And I was like, but just in case, I won't sleep for that long, you know what I'm saying? So I can still, you know what I mean? And I woke up a little under 2 hours, I want to say, after I had gotten the email. And I was like, oh, cool. So I woke up, I seen the email, I was like, oh shit, I got like mad hype. So I was like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? I woke up, I seen I had the email, I was like, bet, I still got an hour left to check out, let's go. I jump over here to my desk, I go to the website, and they're sold out. And at that point, I'm confused, like, what the fuck? And I go back to the email, and the email says, matter of fact, I still got it. I still got it. I fucking bookmarked it because I wanted to memorialize my trauma. What did it say? It says, complete your purchase within the next 3 hours while supplies last. This email does not guarantee purchase. You must check out now. Which is the opposite of what they said when you enter the raffle. They said that you would have 3 hours. And then this email says, oh, you have 3 hours to check out. But winning the raffle was not a reservation. Like, winning the raffle didn't reserve a pair for you. Which I think is fucking stupid because I just like, since when is that how any raffle has ever worked ever? Like, oh yeah, you won, but while supplies last. Like, what? What do you mean? Like, if I got selected for the raffle, shouldn't my pair be reserved? Like, I don't. This man tells bro, cause like I was so like, I'm not gonna lie, bro. That was the most upset I had been in a minute. Like, I really wanted, and like I don't fucking need them. I mean, granted, you and I don't need another pair of shoes as long as we live, realistically. But like, I had 3 fucking pairs of lost and founds. I really don't need the unions, and I got shadows as well. I got the unions, you know what I'm saying? But I don't. I wanted that shoe really bad, and then I won. I never win shit. I never really hit on like good releases and shit. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, bad. I got so hype, and then yeah, woke up, thought I had an hour left. Bitches was sold out, and then I struck out on sneakers, and now they going for 400 to 500, and I ain't trying to pay that for that show. Retail, I was more than willing to pay retail. I was like, yeah, I don't need them, but I really want them. But like, it's hard to justify spending that type of money on the shoe when it's like the only difference is the ankle collar from what I heard he got. You know what I mean? So
based on the way the Edge had ended
yeah,
season
anyway.
1 and the way that he was playing, everybody was surprised.
I was sick to my stomach, dog.
Now, I don't know how much I can tell you this, but the day before the exhibitions, we go to a cafe. I'm with the STL guys, and these guys are saying we want Edge in the main exhibition, and we're like, you can't say that a day before the actual exhibition. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Arslan was there with me, and he was like, you know, wouldn't have been a problem if you told me a week before or like a couple weeks before, but saying it the day before is kind of crazy. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, yes, fair enough, we understand. But I guess they realized that Edge needed to be in the exhibition, and they were like, let's try and get him in there. But they said we want to see him play, and I said, okay, do you know what we do? I think what we do is we'll just do a 1st to 5 with the John. I think we add that so that we'll have the 2 1st to 10s. We'll also start it with a 1st to 5 with Edge, so that he is involved in some way, right? So I'm glad that we did that. And I'm glad it went all the way down to a final round, because that was one of the best sets that we saw in that entire thing. But either way, man, shout out to everyone that made that a possibility.
Yeah, I was actually really disappointed to not see Edge on days 2 and 3, because I thought he would have had some great contributions to the team, but I didn't know all of that.
After the exhibition, and they said that next time we're going to be a lot more involved, a lot more as a team to try and pick the right team and take it very seriously, because they want this run back. They definitely want it. They had a lot of confidence going into day number 2 because of the way that Nee beat Arslan. Ulsan and CBM were like, oh my god, Nee's back, our captain. They trust him so much, they believe in him so much that you know,
as you should respect the GOAT.
It didn't go their way, unfortunately. But let's see what happens next time. We're hoping that next year it's going to be in Pakistan, and it could be like a yearly thing that happens, kind of similar to, like, you know, I don't know if you guys watch cricket, but like, you know, there's a thing called the Ashes where Australia and England play each other, and they do it like every year. So hopefully it could be like a yearly thing that ends the seasons. But talking about seasons, guys, we have season 2. We had Tekken Talk recently, and boy oh boy, did it leave an impact on the entire Tekken community.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Now is we're gonna switch scenes. This is my first time using this scene. I hope it doesn't go wrong. Oh boy, look at that, man. Guys, look at that. How is my graphic design? It's not bad, is it? Like, we got the little layout there. We got the Tekken Talk video there. Now look at the chat. You guys are on the screen now, guys. In the chat, look at you guys, man, talking away. All right.
I am heat speak now.
Tekken Talk. I guess before we start the video, I want some general takeaways and kind of thoughts about
I am heat speak
after watching it. And Fee, I'm gonna start with you, bro. I mean, you watched it. What were
this is Tekken, not Bleach? Yeah, I was playing Bleach earlier, but now we're watching this. I played Bleach for about 6 hours.
It was a very, very impactful presentation for sure. It left an impression. I will say that the Anna presentation was pretty cool. I thought that the adaptation of the character, I always have said that as much as I don't like fighting against like Anna or don't like fighting against like Lei and Julia, I started in Tekken 3, so I think these characters always belong in Tekken. If there's a Nina, there's got to be Anna, you know what I mean? So I was excited to see her come back in general. I think the addition of an extra stance kind of lines up with her character. So in general, when it comes to new stances on characters, I'm like, hit or miss, depends on the design. I feel like when it comes to Anna, an Anna player wants to go into stance, so that makes total sense to me, you know? And then when they started showing a lot of the character changes, especially in combination with the interview they gave before with the Evo team, I was like, okay, you can tell they're paying attention to the defensive things that we're looking for.
Am I tripping?
And then I think the shock factor came from, in addition to those defensive adjustments that show kind of they are paying attention and they're in touch with what
Here we
people
go.
are asking, they also added a bunch of buffs that kind of went in what we perceive to be the other direction. So again, disclaimer, we need to see all the patch notes and see how everything interacts. But it was kind of shocking to see like a bit of like a nugget of what we were looking for, and then a swing into the other direction. We were like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
So I spoke about this earlier, but a lot of you guys probably weren't here because it was like so early in the stream and shit, right? I don't really fully understand who the Tekken talk is for. And what I mean by that is I don't understand, or I'm not really certain who the target demographic is. Because from my perspective, right, the Tekken talk is mostly going to cater toward and be watched by your much more hardcore player base, right? The people who are actually grinding this game out on a pretty regular basis. Obviously, all the competitive players and everything like that, and all of your content creators and streamers and stuff, right? The people who are putting hundreds of hours into this game make up the majority, I would imagine, of who are watching the Tekken talk, right? Even though casuals make up the majority of the player base and are generating the most of the sales and revenue, right? When I think of the casual player, they're probably not tuning in to a show like that. And I would imagine most of them probably don't even know that it's a thing that happens. So with that being said, I then find it very odd that they spoke in the Evo FGC video the way that they did and made the statements that they did and led us to believe that the game was going to go in a certain direction. And then what they showed was not only the opposite, but it's like, okay, maybe the justification behind that is they want to show off the cool new changes and the buffs to the characters and the flashy stuff, you know, to please the casuals and whatnot. But it's like, the casuals really aren't the ones tuning into that. So like, wouldn't it have made more sense to showcase the stuff that would have appealed to the more hardcore player base, even if it was a little bit more boring or less interesting? Because it's like, hey, look, we made this change to sidestep, or this is how we tweaked armor moves to work better in this situation, or we did, you know what I'm saying, just whatever the case, or we made adjustments to the properties of these moves and this so that it creates a much more less toxic situation, or one-sided situation on, you know what I mean? Just whatever the changes are. And they very well may have made some changes that we aren't aware of that are definitely going to impact the effectiveness of strong defensive play in this game, but they didn't show any of that. So all we can believe so far is what they showed us, and it's the exact opposite of what the community has been asking for and wanting to see and whatever. So it's just like, I don't really understand what like the objective was with what they displayed, because it's the opposite of what we were looking for and hoping for and asking for and what they said we were going to get. And it's just a little confusing on that front. They quite literally show the exact opposite expected praise. And like, again, we do have to wait and see. I just don't really know who came up with like the outline for what was going to be showcased and why they decided to show what they did. You know what I'm saying? Because I think the majority of the people who were tuning into the Tekken talk were looking for the opposite of what they showed. So it just kind of seems like, but maybe I'm in the wrong. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they do that show with the intention of catering to the casual audience, and maybe they have data to show that that's the right move to do because of whatever. I just feel like the people who are most likely watching Tekken talks are not the casual fan base for the most part.
Well,
maybe
wait,
I'm wrong.
We buffing defense? Are we buffing offense? What are we doing? I think everybody was confused based on prior messaging. So that was my takeaway. I think that was my audience's takeaway. We were just it was a lot of whiplash.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth. I see. Speakix, do you agree? And what was your takeaway and thoughts after watching that Tekken talk?
Yeah. Okay. Let me word this well.
He's gathering his thoughts.
I think it's hard to make a judgment on season 2 and the upcoming changes based on what we've seen, right? Because they said that there's 1,500 changes in the logs, and we clearly didn't see that. Like maybe we saw even 100. I'm not sure, but I think the Tekken talk itself did not do the best job showing what people were looking for, which was especially surprising after them acknowledging knowing what people were looking for, while saying things like, we know the defensive players are feeling like too constrained, and we're keeping the game aggressive, but we want to make sure that there's counterplay. And they show us things and like say, hey, yeah, by the way, there's no counterplay. or they show like Jin running 3 into stance, which is plus
12
on block, and they made the low unseeable out of it. And then
it's a counter hit launcher.
And then they showed Anna doing the safe the plus on block low for 64 damage.
That's
while
not
acknowledging the lack of counterplay. By the way, you can't punish it. You know what I mean? So it was a very weird thing to have them kind of acknowledge what people were looking for, and then maybe it does exist in the patches. I don't know yet. We haven't seen the patch yet, but for them to acknowledge it and then not show it, and then the response to the outrage afterwards was confusing because they kind of acknowledged that people wanted to see something different, and then they showed us something off. It was all kind of weird to me. So I don't think the Tekken.
Yeah, and then even just the whole like premise of Anna's like gimmick with her debuff and shit, right? It's like they talked about reducing the chip damage in the game, which would have been a very welcome change, I think, by most players. I think most players would have greatly appreciated a reduction in chip damage. Then for you to introduce a character that specializes in making it so that you take more chip damage. And then making it so that throws do chip damage in heat when you properly break them, thereby making you feel as though you're being punished for playing good defense. Again, I think there was some cool stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the patch, man. That Tekken Talk really was a head scratcher.
Particularly good, but I don't know if season 2 is good or bad yet.
I see. Okay, Joker, what's your opinion?
I can't wait to see those patch notes though.
In my opinion on the Tekken Talk, so when I saw the Anna segment, it was interesting. I feel like when I was watching the Anna segment, I kind of just zoned out, and then they hit us with the character changes, which were crazy because I feel like some of the character changes were good, like Jin, for instance, and then they showed us so many buffs for some reason. Now, I think something I need to mention is like what Speedkick said. We can't really make too much of a judgment based on the Tekken Talk because, of course, it's a presentation. They're limited on time. There's only so much they can show, and they're gonna show like new moves. They're not gonna show like frame nerfs or like properties of moves being changed and whatnot. So yeah, I don't think the Tekken Talk was a good idea in my opinion. Like I think they showed the wrong things, especially when they dropped the Evo video a day before the Tekken Talk and they don't show any of that. I think that was so strange, and I think it wasn't what the community was expecting. We didn't want to see all these buffs to characters and whatnot. And yeah, I'm just like, I'll be honest with you, I think I'm scared, but I'm still optimistic because we still have so many changes we're yet to see. I mean, they said it's a very big patch. It's a new season. There's still time before Evo Japan. But yeah, I am scared shitless right now, and we're gonna see what happens.
Kwis, do you agree with that? It seems like from what Speakix and Joker have said, is that based on kind of the Evo video and just kind of the lead up to that Tekken Talk, which has been a conversation about defense and how they realized that offense was maybe a little bit too strong and a bit too much focus on offense, that they needed to focus on the defensive elements, and they brought in the sidestep from crouch and other such changes, and maybe people were expecting to see one thing but saw another thing. Is that kind of your opinion as well? And what did you take away from the Tekken Talk?
Oh yeah, it definitely felt like a bit of whiplash because again, the day before they mentioned so much about defense being important and sidesteps being changed, and so many like these are huge changes, like being able to step into the foreground from crouch. And then they mentioned something like
It was good,
something
Tubbs.
about when you're grounded, you take 30% less damage or something that I can't even remember what it was, but something like that about 30% less damage while grounded or recover the life. And it's like, well, that's something it sounds weird. I want to see what that is in a Tekken Talk. Like you're surely gonna talk about that, right? Like I was really waiting for them to talk about the defense stuff in Tekken Talk because there was so much mention. This 30% thing, like it sounds like a huge change. Like surely it's something you want to champion for next season, but they didn't mention it. But yeah, overall the Tekken Talk, my feeling is I want to see the patch notes.
Yeah,
Before I make like a big decision, but like it was the things that I saw, I wasn't a fan of. is the best way. Like some like
Feel
the
that.
Jin nerfs up 4-2 is unsafe, 2-1-4 is unsafe.
Those were great changes.
They had me for a second, and then they were like, now running 3 into 50-50 stance mix-ups, and it's like it's more of the stuff that we haven't been a fan of for most of the time. And you know, heat engages are still plus 17. I thought that's something they might address.
Overall, bad
And
first
then
impression, but
it's
hoping for
like-
the best. And I think that's how a lot of the
it brings
level-headed
a lot
people
of things
feel.
into question, because like with heat
Myself
engages still plus
included.
17, when Anna heat engages, she can now do the running low, and you can't low parry it. So it's
We
just
obviously don't
free
know the
chip
full
damage where the
extent
hits
to
is a
nerfs to
free
characters.
60 damage that's not recoverable. And
We obviously don't know to what extent characters have been nerfed, but the characters that they showed and the nerfs that they showed, followed by the buffs that the characters got, it definitely feels like the buffs outweigh the nerfs, which is interesting because the characters that they showed, outside of like Adesanya and Jun, I guess, well, you know, it was really just Jin, King, and Yoshi, right? Jin, King, and Yoshi are characters who didn't need anything. They have weaknesses, sure. Actually, Jin had no weaknesses. Jin was a perfect character in my opinion. Jin had no flaws. Yoshi and King at least have weaknesses, but they weren't perfect, but they're not supposed to be, right? And I think I understand the idea of it's a new season, lots of characters. You don't want to be the only one whose character doesn't get like a shiny new toy to play with, right? So I get that, but it's just like you're giving characters who are already very, very strong more very, very powerful tools, at least from what we can see. And it's just a bad look, you know what I'm saying? The optics of it are just not great. You know? I don't know. And maybe it would have been a lot better if they picked some different characters to show. Because on one hand, it feels like they're like, oh, look, guys, we heard you. We're listening. We're listening to the community. Look, we nerfed Flash. Y'all will talk about we nerfed muscle armor. We heard you guys. Look, Jin 2 and 4, Jin down 2. Hey, we got you. It's like I get it. But if the plan was to show the nerfs and the buffs, maybe it would have been better to show only the nerfs for those characters and buffs for others, or pick different characters altogether. I don't know. To showcase.
And it's like, it feels like they make certain decisions in a vacuum and don't look at how it's gonna affect the entire game. But again, I'm only seeing the
This was good, Odin.
Tekken talk in the background. I'm not seeing the entire patch notes and what it means for the rest of the game. You know, there's still a time for them to change the engages not plus 17. I doubt it, but there's always time. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. From what I'm hearing from you guys and from what I've seen on Twitter as well, is that because based on what has been shown, it was not expected, because again, the conversation was a lot about defense leading up to Tekken Talk, but then they showed some things which showed a lot more kind of 50-50s and buffs to characters that maybe people weren't so happy with, right? So it kind of surprised people. But like you said, Kwist, and I think someone else said it as well, Joker, I think, like, let's say for example Jin, right? He got this new buff. If you look at that if you isolate that and look at that just as it is now and consider season 1 Jin and look at that buff, you think that is crazy. But what if, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, what if there are other changes? Because obviously, again, there's 1,500 changes to these characters, right? What if the rest of the changes to Jin were just nerfs to the point where like that Jin actually deserved that buff in a way? What do you think, Speed?
I think maybe a problem, even if the other things do get nerfed, I think the problem that personally I have with the game, and I think a lot of people have with the game, even though I really like the game, it's not a matter of what wins or loses, right? I think a lot of what gets talked about is, oh, this character is too strong, or this style of play is too strong, and there's a lot of different ways you can change a game so that one person playing a certain way wins or loses. My problem isn't Jin being strong or Jin being weak, or aggression being strong or aggression being weak. It's the type of aggression that they want us to do, right? It's the way we interact. I'm an aggressive player. I love the shift from Tekken 7 to Tekken 8. I still say season 1 Tekken 8 I liked a lot more than the last seasons of Tekken 7. And the first ones. The problem is, even though I'm interacting more, the interactions can get a lot cheaper. There's a lot less decisions being made while attacking in this game than attacking in previous games, right? And that comes from removing options. That comes from my opponent not being able to sidestep my stuff. Instead of there being a layer of options of counterplay I can work with, right? It's just mid or low. And I'm like super plus. I don't have to worry about the counter hit timings. I don't have to worry about the sidestep timings. And it just makes it so that even though I'm fighting my opponent, I'm still bored. And so when, they talk about making the game more aggressive and making sure that it's an aggressive type of game, I hear that they want people to keep attacking and still win, but I would like it for them to make it so that it's aggressive, often like attacker favored, but there's still more layers there for us to play with. And the Jin change, right? They're running 3 into the stance. That's not really something that shows me a lot of counterplay. It shows me more guessing, right? It's plus 12, right? The heat engage being plus 17 on hit. It's not a lot of counterplay. Cool. The attacker can now duck and do full crash moves, right? They even said that they saw us playing the game and always doing the same move after heat engage, so they wanted us to mix it up.
Right.
The reason we did the same thing after heat engage is because when you're plus 17, there's not much to do for both players, right? If I was less plus, but still plus, still in my favor, right? As the attacker, I'm still favored. I'm still incentivized to be the attacker. But if my opponent could sidestep, if my opponent could do parries, if they could power crush, right? If they had the frames to do that, then I would have to mix up my offense more, and there'd be more layers and more thought between both players while still being attacker favored, right? Yeah. So the changes they showed they didn't give the community any hope that there was going to be more thoughtful offense, right? It's not we're not mad because the attackers are winning still. We're mad because we want more gameplay, right? And more gameplay is enabled when you reduce some of the power of his offensive stuff, some of the coverage of his offensive stuff. Not power. Let's not say power, right? Because it can still be very strong, but when it shuts out the defender entirely, there's not much gameplay happening.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with you. I think this is a conversation I had when I was at the EU Cup with some of the players. If you make heat engage a plus 10 from plus 17, you still have a considerable advantage, but the options that the defender has are a lot more than if there's plus 17. There's the potential to maybe sidestep a running 3 or parry a down forward 1, and all these, and that plays into the mind game where it's like, okay, I have options here. If I see my opponent kind of defaulting to the same option as the defender, I can actually do something to beat that. But at plus 17 or at minus 17, I actually can't do anything. So I 100% agree with you there. Fee, do you agree with that as well?
Yeah, I think that that was my main concern watching the Anna reveal, where the first move they pitched is a homing high, right? A range 4 homing
plus
high.
on block.
Plus 4 on block, knocked down into follow-up.
Yeah.
I don't care that the follow-up is like relatively low damage. I mean, it's a chunk, right? But it's not like a combo, right? I don't care that the damage is what it is. If it's higher, if it's lower, it's whatever. It's what are both players doing in the neutral game?
She got me typing like a caveman. Nah, you all good, man.
Right? And then to complement that move, they've given her a mid safe string that I can assume, based on them showing the first move, is that it's sidesteppable. But Tekken isn't just, are they doing the linear move? Are they doing the homing move? Let me sidestep or stand block. Are they doing the mid or the low? Let me stand block or duck. I always call back to like how I think, as much as I hate fighting him, I think Kazuya's design is kind of elegant because they made all of his moves, more or less, with a few exceptions, walkable to the left.
Elegant, not the word I would use to describe Kazuya, but I see where you're going, Fee.
Are you sidestepping, or did I get you to sit still and then do I get to mix you up? There's like these extra layers on top of it outside of just, is this the time I pick option A, or is this the time I pick option B? And
I had someone leave me a comment that I didn't bother replying to, because sometimes I see I mean, obviously this happens like on a daily basis, right? There are some comments where it's like, okay, I need to let this guy know how stupid he is. And sometimes it's like, okay, I want to educate this person because they just seem to be ignorant on the matter, but maybe they'd be willing to learn, and et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes I just ignore shit altogether, right? Someone left me a comment that basically went something along the lines of, Kazuya does the same thing. He mixes you up, is knockdown into hell sweep or whatever forward. I'm just like, He's like, how is a character just going in a stance any different than what Kazuya already does? And I'm like, it was one of those things where I just was like, I literally, I read that comment and I was like this. And I sat there for a minute, was like, do I bother like wasting my time explaining it to this person? Would they even care? Would they understand? Or would it become an argument? And I ultimately didn't reply, but like Fee is saying, like there is a difference. There's a big difference actually, but it just, and he was talking about like, oh, but Kazuya is Mr. Honest and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, but whatever, man.
And kind of, I guess, where a lot of my frustration was coming from was how it feels like a lot of the characters are turning into that Anna design, right? A lot of characters are given really, really strong option that forces you to pick one thing, alternative option that covers the weaknesses of the first thing in a very binary way, right? And obviously, again, we'd want to see, is the movement much better that, you know, you get some extra defensive options against, like, say, the mid string. They showed Jin jab interrupting the new Zafina mid string that's now safe, right? But and there might be elegant fixes there that a high level player or a upper intermediate player will be able to exploit that leads to some cool depth. But again, just from what we were shown, it felt like a very much like, here's my gigantic homing mid, here is my straight up and down mid, and now we will deal with these two things. And it felt very like the game could still be fun, the game could even be more balanced, but to me, balance isn't everything. It's like, are the interactions we're having.
This is another thing as well. There is this crazy obsession people have with balance, and balance is not the end all be all. You know what I mean? In Dragon Ball Fighters, I had people say this to me a lot. People brought this up to me like a lot when I would speak on the game and how I felt about it before I just stopped playing or talking about it. People like, this is the most balanced DBFZ's ever been. Sure. Okay, fine. But if there's a lack of depth to the gameplay, if there's a lack of complexity to the gameplay, what does that matter at the end of the day? I feel like character power was just way too high, and really dumb, powerful shit was just way too accessible to where it made it not fun. And Tekken is unfortunately going down the exact same path where it's just like they're stripping away as much depth and complexity and layers as possible in order to appeal to the most casual of casual audiences, while hurting the hardcore player base and the people who actually enjoy that nuance and those things that Tekken had to offer as a fighting game. And then also just giving very powerful tools to very inexperienced players. It's like giving very, very nice, like highly coveted, very expensive katanas crafted by the world's finest swordsmith to a very inexperienced swordsman. You know what I mean? Or like, it'd be like if I gave this Nikon D750. Let's unplug my keyboard by mistake. Like if I give this very nice camera, right? Most of you in chat, you're probably not gonna know what to do with this other than it's like, oh, what's the shoot button, right? Like most people, if I give this camera, this is a very, very powerful, very expensive, very nice camera. Well, the one I'm using on stream is nicer. This one's getting a bit old at this point, but this was a $1,200 camera when I bought it, and this is a $1,200 lens on it. But I promise you that in the hands of most people, it's not going to be, if I hand this camera to most people, the pictures they're going to take are not going to be nearly as good as the pictures that I take, because there's a certain level of complexity and depth to how to utilize this. And it's not just point and click. This isn't just your cell phone or, you know, an old Canon PowerShot or Fujifilm FinePix camera from 20 years ago. You know what I mean? There's a lot of buttons and dials and things on here. You know what I mean? It takes a certain eye. It takes a certain understanding of, like, you know, symmetry and depth and composition and aperture and exposure and shutter speed and all these things to take a good quality photo. But what Tekken is doing, in my opinion, is taking this top dial right here, you know what I'm saying, and switching it from M for manual to that green setting over there for auto. They're switching the game from manual to auto to where now not all anyone has to do is just point and click. And it's like, yeah, anyone can point and click, but the fun in photography for me at least, and for most photographers, is not only just capturing that shot and taking a good photo, but like really crafting something yourself and like manually doing all these things, like fine tuning these details. And with Tekken right now, it feels like they're taking away the ability to fine tune these details and really craft something, because they're just peeling back too many layers and like stripping it down to the basics. They're taking away all the buttons and dials and just leaving you with the power button and the shutter button. But yeah.
Dynamic? Are they interesting? Are they layered?
At least from what we know so
And,
far. Again,
it's a challenge.
got to
try and
reserve full
appeal
judgment
to
until we get
players
the
that
actual
push
notes
that
itself.
and
But
appeal to new people coming in. But it is a challenge I have a lot of investment in hoping that they answer, because I think keeping the higher level players engaged long term is really healthy, and I think that's an important priority.
Right, absolutely. Kawis, what's your thoughts on this as well? You know, like, obviously everyone's hoping that in season 2 there's going to be a few more options for the defender. You know, just to make the mind game a little bit more complicated and a bit more fun, even if the aggressor still has a ton of options. What's your takeaway on this?
Oh yeah, I completely agree, especially with like what Speakick said there, because it made me think of Alyssa post heat engage. What's Alyssa gonna do every single time after heat engage? Destroy forward 1+2,
Yeah.
because there's no reason not to do anything else. It's +5, it does crazy chip damage, and then you just have to block that, and now you're minus again and go from there. Like there's no, and then again, if you're in like a end of round little bit of health situation, then they just do the low, and it's like, well, of course I didn't duck. You have this mid right here. Of course I didn't duck. It's like just giving the defender options, and you get to, because again, if you look at that situation, every Alyssa player does it. You can't tell the difference between the best Alyssa players in the world, a mid Alyssa player, and someone who just started, because there's no reason for them not all to do this one move. It's so overpowered in this situation that just toning some of that down, giving us creative freedom to mix something up, or like that's what I really enjoy about Tekken, is like the layer 2. Like once you've beaten this option, how do you get to the next level? How do you stop me from there? Right? Like I've stopped this. What do you do to beat me stopping this? And if you don't do it, I'm just gonna win from there. Like it's the forcing adaptation. But the way it is now, I always why he engage at +17 is I'm gonna do the same option every single time. And there's nothing you can do to stop me from doing it. Like to me, that it's just unfun at the end of the day, because I know exactly what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
I can't do anything about it. Like that doesn't feel fair.
I see. Okay, Joker, what do you take on that? I mean, I agree. Just to let you know, Kawis, I agree with that. You know, obviously, if you have a mid option which is plus and gives us chip damage and allows you to continue your offense, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, why wouldn't you just go for that? And you know, if your opponent happens to duck, well, that's a lot of reward for you. But duck or not, you're getting rewarded either way. You know, whatever happens, you're gonna get rewarded. Joker, what do you make about that? I guess we're talking a lot about heat engages here, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everything that was just said from everyone. Something I wanted to talk about was like the chip part. Now they said they wanted to reduce chip, but it feels like Anna has like a whole mechanic, which is the debuff or whatever it is, which focuses on chip, and I think that's not necessarily a good thing as well, because in heat she deals more chip when she's in that debuff state as well. When the opponent's debuffed, I don't like that at all. And in general, like some of the new some of the new moves we saw are just crazy, man. Like we're seeing half screen mids that are potentially homing. We're seeing moves go into stance, which is again enhancing the 50-50 situation, like FDX mentioned. I'm not a fan, but again, I'm gonna wait to make my judgment until I actually try the game and lab it for myself, because I think it's important. I feel like
chip
something I
debuff
said on
plus
my
he is
stream
insane.
was
Yeah, I agree.
there's a difference between reading a patch note and feeling it for yourself. What I mean by feel is like labbing it for yourself. Like for instance, Tekken 7 Season 2. I still remember when that wall bounce trailer dropped, man, and everyone was losing their shit. And when we actually played it, we were like, it's not too bad. It could have been worse. And I
Bring back
pray that
all
that's the
bounce.
same case for this whole presentation. I'm just gonna wait to see what happens, but
Yeah.
yeah, from what we've seen so far, it's scary, man. It's scary times.
Yeah,
One
it's scary. Go on, sorry.
One thing that also stood out to me, not just in option coverage and how that kind of these really strong mix-up situations, especially off the heat engage, kind of force a very stale mode of play. I also felt that when they were showing the character changes, the two things that kind of also felt restricting were the emphasis on attack that goes into stance and then stance offense. And then we gave the Jin example. It's not just that the running 3 goes into stance, it's that they make his low less reactable, 24 to 21. It's that Azucena now gets the full crouch low that's +5 in the stance. She has a frame trap option. She probably has a tracking option, right? Like the way that game is being pushed is in this very stance heavy direction. I asked a question like a thought experiment, like if I'm the kind of player that doesn't want to use stances, doesn't want to use like a buff or an install, who do I pick? And the only answer I think was like Kazuya. And he is a very high execution character, right? So I think that there is, obviously to the people that it appeals to, it's going to be pretty cool because like you can pick up any character. They're going to have this very clear flow of find my big hit, go into stance, push my offense. But it feels that that's becoming maybe the only way to play. And then my other concern, aside from the attack stance, is that characters who kind of felt designed around particular weaknesses seem to be, again, because we have to see everything, seem to be getting those buffed out. I looked at Reyna's new low that on counter hit goes into this evasive low that goes under like highs and mids. And they showed a lot of moves that were like going under highs and kind of like getting around the opponent's attempts to defend outside of just guessing. Yeah. I felt like Reyna was, as crazy as her moveset is, I actually like enjoyed that they had this vision with her where insane mids, insane highs, fast poking, so much control, electric wind god fist, hop kick. She could do like everything. Yeah. But if she goes low, it's a bit of a commitment. And I kind of like that exchange. Now it feels like, again, we don't know how this new low works fully, but just the idea of a low that is kind of evasive. It looks like she can poke from far away. It leads into stance off. I felt really weird about changes like that. That she can heat smash twice from Heaven's Wrath with a new low. It felt like they saw this weakness, and to help people who enjoy Reyna,
it was good, Semi. How you doing, shorty?
That weakness, they started patching it up. And that general trend, I think, is how we get a lot of power creep. We get a lot of eventually frustrating designs. That's the biggest thing that concerned me, was the idea of seeing a character's weakness and patching it over. You know?
Yeah. And there's
Just
something, you remember a while ago when people were talking about the
been streaming all day
nerf philosophy, right? Where the idea is we feel a loss to something a lot worse than we enjoy like the gains, right? So it feels a lot better to, you know, it feels a lot worse to lose something than it does
To be honest, Sammy, I don't know how much you know about Tekken or what you've heard about season 2, but whatever you've heard or seen people saying or thinking or feeling, yeah. But I'm trying to remain open-minded and optimistic, and I'm looking forward to the patch notes when they release next week and we actually get our hands on the new season. I agree with 3DX, but we don't even know the frames on the low. We don't know if it's amazing. So here's the thing. We don't. Whoops.
Or like the goodness of gaining something.
I'm going to dial it back a little bit because I don't know how far I have to go exactly. I think I assume it's Spag controlling this, right? I want you to pay close attention to the actual gameplay being shown here because we saw it for ourselves, right? We saw the low in action.
General trend, I think, is how we get.
So we don't know the speed of the low, right? But it's not like it's a snake edge.
A lot of weakness. They started patching it up. And that general trend, I think, is how we get a lot of.
Like, is that reactable? Maybe. But one thing we do know is that it's not super punishable. Because if you look.
Power creep, we get a lot of eventually frustrating.
Look at Asuka.
That's the biggest thing that concerned me, was the idea of.
That didn't punish it. Now, maybe they were a bit low with her punish. How fast does that move from Asuka? Is that 13 frames maybe? I want to say it's 13 frames. I'd have to go into training mode and double check. I really can't remember for sure because I don't play Asuka and I'm obviously not a master, right? But I think that move was 13 frames and it didn't punish that low. So is the move that safe, or were they just a little bit late? So at the very least, we know that unlike all of her other lows, it's not launch punishable because her other lows are launch punishable. So her having an evasive, at the very least, high crushing low that goes into stance, that leads into a guaranteed follow-up on counter hit, that isn't launch punishable, is a very, very powerful addition to her kit. It makes up for the only real weakness that she had. And characters should have weaknesses. Characters should have clearly defined strengths and clearly defined weaknesses, because that's what creates different archetypes. That's what creates a character's personality. That's what creates a character's identity, You know what I mean? And part of Reina's identity was that she had bad lows. If it's while standing 1-3, it's 14. Okay, so it's 14. I was off by 1. So it could be minus 13 then. It could be minus 14, and then Asuka was just slightly off. We don't have the numbers yet, but we could pretty confidently say that that move is less than minus 15 for sure. I think I can confidently say that before we even have the numbers. And he is making a little bit of assumptions here. I guess we all are, but I mean, with what we are able to gather from the gameplay, especially if you are an experienced player or have a certain level of eye, you can see that it's just like, this is something that's intentionally designed to make up for a clear weakness that she had, because they don't want her to have that weakness anymore. You know what I mean? Which is just not necessarily how things should be.
Of seeing a character's weakness and patching it over, you know?
Yeah. And there's
Which is what he just
something,
said.
you remember a while ago when people were talking about that buff over nerf philosophy, right? Where the idea is,
man, that
we
philosophy
feel
has
a loss to something a lot
done
worse
irreparable damage.
than we enjoy like the gains, right? So it feels a lot better to, you know, it feels a lot worse to lose something than it does to gain something, or like the goodness of gaining something, if that makes sense. I feel like there's a lot with that when it comes to trying to from Bandai Namco's perspective, right? They want to appeal to people when they make these Tekken talks, when they show off this stuff. They come up with these new ideas. They want the game to look cool, so they're like, "Hey, here's this new thing you can do." But something I think I would really like for them to understand is when you show off something new, that as a buff, a new move, something that removes the counterplay from your character, right? It's actually more of a gameplay removal than it is an addition, because they are showing the rest of us who don't play.
If you guys want my full thoughts, I went over the
right?
Tekken talk myself.
And on the other side,
and discussed all the changes and gave a lot of thoughts and opinions. And I spoke for like 10 minutes at the end of the video.
This move now, right? Maybe okay, cool. The if you can step
giving
Demon
some
Paw
specific
easier,
thoughts,
right?
but when it comes to realignment change, I'm not a
A little
fan.
bit more upset, right?
But
okay, cool. Their move got a little bit
It's
weaker.
not the end of the world.
But for the rest of us, we're seeing more gameplay.
Yes.
Okay, before when that move came on the screen, I just had to block. Now I can do this or that, right? It's an addition for us by nerfing the move, right? So it's the way the game works. A lot of the super strong stuff, they shut the opponent out of the game. So when they show us counterplay, when they give us new counterplay, when they give us new defense, they're actually showing the rest of us a lot more new additions to the game.
Right, absolutely. I think that's why the sidestep from crouch mechanic that they introduced was a very good one. I think because that does give everybody else more options. Let's say, for example, Asaka is a great option there, because if you're on P1, if she does down back 3, if you try to, the only way you can sidestep is left. If you sidestep left, you're gonna get hit by another down back 3. Now you can be on both P1 and P2, and if you can sidestep right no matter what, and you'll be able to sidestep a second down back 3. It prevents her from being able to loop that offense, right? So you know, even though that actually
another thing as well, I don't think I talked about this in my video, and I don't think I even acknowledged it on stream.
Hit by another down.
But Reina does this combo,
Now,
right? It's supposed to be double electric, but whatever.
You can be
While standing 3-4. That is now a strong aerial tailspin for Reina. I'm pretty sure that move does not currently do strong aerial tailspin, which means she just gets that much better corner carry and combo damage. So yeah.
on both P1 and P2, and
Now, granted,
step left, you're gonna get hit by another down back 3. Now
this does require a little bit of execution here
sidestep left, you're
to
gonna
get the
hit by
instant
another
while
down
standing 3-4.
Now you can,
Because you got to do a little, micro crouch into the while standing 3-4. But even still, like it's definitely a lot more difficult than like some other characters who just have a string for theirs, right? But
be on both P1 and P2, and if you can sidestep right no matter what, and you'll be able to sidestep a second down back 3. It prevents her from being able to loop that offense, right? So you know, even though that actually provides us as the defender more options, and I guess what you're saying is, if you nerf the Demon Paw, then it makes the Jin player have to think a little bit more. You know, it's not a dual kind of move, and I have more options as a defender. So sometimes in Tekken, less is more, and that's why nerfs, and that's why the community has been asking for nerfs, right? I believe that's kind of what you're getting at, right, Speed?
Yeah, exactly. It's not about the power or, oh, I can't win against Jin. I can win against every Jin anyway. The problem is that there's very little fun things to do while fighting the Jin, you know?
Yeah.
So I think when if they showing off nerfs, showing off new counterplay, it's showing off new toys for the rest of us as opposed to just the guy who plays the character.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, thanks. Yeah. Given that was everyone giving their kind of initial thoughts on the Tekken talk. I just want to go over it. Like, I have all the timestamps there, so I kind of want to go through things, chronologically and talk about it with you guys, right? So we've kind of got a little bit of general thoughts, but I actually want to go into things a little bit.
The low encounter hit gives a guaranteed follow up. Yeah, it gives you a guaranteed Sentai 2, and they now made us that Sentai 2 transitions to the Heaven's Wrath. So you get a counter hit low. It's a guaranteed Sentai 2 into another 50/50
change to the Tekken World Tour, which they announced. And guys, don't worry, we're gonna go into the gameplay. So I got all the timestamps, okay, guys. But let's talk about this quickly first. Tekken World Tour has announced that now tour registration is possible for every person, no matter what country they're in, and I think that's such a huge change, because again, ever since 2017 when Tekken 7 came out, I've known of players from certain countries that are so passionate, that are just they're crazy about Tekken and haven't been able to I guess compete, right? So as you can see here, now it doesn't matter where you are, what country, what nationality, what residence you have, you are going to be able to sign up for the tour, and it's amazing, especially considering some of the drama that we saw from last year. Now they did announce also, of course, there are going to be some issues with some players because of the country that they're in. Sometimes I guess there's going to be some economic sanctions, and that is absolutely outside of the control of Bandai Namco. So when it comes to
just got an
money,
ad, even though I'm subbed. This is a new Twitch thing. Judging from what I can see here in my chat, you don't have a sub badge by your name, so you might need to refresh your browser.
And they said, you know what, look, we're just happy that finally we can actually compete. So lovely to see that. And I think all of you guys, I'm not going to say anything against that, right? I mean, this is really cool. But there is something that I want your opinion on when it comes to Tekken World Tour, and it's this right here. Major change in regulations each tournament now for coaching. And I know, Speakers, you are a big driving force behind the coaching conversation. Now they've made a change. Coaching, each tournament may establish its own rules.
I was actually here for this part of the stream. I missed basically the majority of the stream because I missed like the start of it. I was here for like 10 minutes, and then I think that's when I ended up going to sleep yesterday. This part's funny.
Then coaching must happen one time per match, and only after a player loses the game, and only 1 minute and one coach. And so
I'm glad Reina got a new low. I'm sure everybody who plays Reina is glad Reina got a new low. But is it something that she really should have gotten? No.
What's your opinion on the coaching changer?
I think there just needs to be regulation at the end of the day, regardless of.
A change I actually wanted to see.
There needs to be regulation. Like I think.
Either make her down forward 2 safe or make it launch crouchers. Because right now, it's the only down forward 2 that's unsafe on block that doesn't launch crouchers.
Have to get up and then walk over to their coach and then listen and then get back up and walk. So that did add a lot of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like the rule like only after losing, because we did see so many times like players win a set, then someone comes coaching, then they lose the next game, and then from there. So like I think that's a good change. Yeah, I've never had like a huge opinion on it. Like I guess Joker's up there, and me and Joker, we coach each other a lot when we play in tournament. And it's like I think it's fine as long as there's regulation. It's cool. I think it got out of hand sometimes of like multiple players going up and then going up after a win and then sitting there for 2 hours. And the only thing I think they didn't mention is like the rules on like phones, because I don't know how much you can do on that, but like someone could be like on a Discord call with like 10 different guys, and then it's like, okay, maybe that's a bit too much, but like I don't know how you do that. You check their phone, you take their phone, I don't know what you do. They could have like a wireless receiver in there, I don't know.
Spud thing with 13 months.
I'm not gonna call anyone out, but there's been some people that be on their phones like this with their headphones in. Certain players, I'm not gonna call them out. But I see you guys.
I'm just saying, man. But like, it's also interesting because they said each tournament can have their. So that could a tournament ban coaching if they wanted to?
Yes. No, I agree, Mello. It definitely is intentional.
You can establish your own rules if you don't want coaching.
But that's just like a small adjustment I would have liked as a player. But they did something way above and beyond, in my opinion, with giving her that low and going into Heaven's Wrath from Sentai 2. So
I think they need to regulate it better. Like in some tournaments that I've competed in, I remember like when the opponent's getting coached, they've had like 2-3 different coaches per set. I'm just like thinking, is it supposed to be one coach, one designated coach per set? So yeah, I think it's good that they're, kind of clamping down on it. I think it's important, and I agree with what Kayla said. And it's so important that you coach someone after losing the previous set. I don't know
Yeah.
why there were some coaches that would coach their opponents after winning. Like that makes no sense. Let them focus. It's not about you, it's about them. Let him focus. Yeah, let the player play. And yeah, I think eventually it will get banned in due time. But yeah, I think one big issue I have is the phoning part, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna call people out. Americans are always on their phones, on their earphones, and
Speaking, so
they're
then in
probably
Discord.
they're probably
Yeah.
in Speaking
Yeah.
Discord. I'm telling you, it's in
So-
Speaking's Discord. They're in Speaking's Discord, probably getting coached by Speakings and Tone and PDX. Like, how do you regulate that? That's what I don't understand.
Speakers, what do you think about that, man?
Oh my god, I'm so happy, bro. When I saw that slide, I like just got out of my chair. Like, I mainly do like Tekken coaching and stuff, right? So like that's like my main contribution.
Yeah.
And I think the mid-set coaching thing is so dumb, like for multiple reasons, right? I just
Yeah, I
think
had a long
it's
conversation with
not
Speakix
good
about
for
that.
competition. I think.
I don't remember.
It's not
Do
good
you
for the
guys remember?
spectator.
Did Speakix
I
and I
don't
do a
think it
video
really
together
enriches the
talking
experience as a player.
about
All
the
it really
coaching
does is
stuff?
you
Because I
yourself
feel like I
when you
I did,
know, in the one,
but I really don't
you're playing,
remember.
which is very weird to me. So all around, I think it's a good change, and I know it's going to be really hard to regulate generally, right? So a complete ban of coaching would be very difficult, I think, for anyone, because like for any tournament, because how do you handle the guys off stage? How do you handle the crowd screaming? How do you handle phones, right? But this kind of regulation is really good for it, I think.
Yeah. Fee, what do you make, man? What do you think of it?
As someone who benefits heavily from mid-set coaching, I completely agree. I think that any step to regulate it or even outright remove it is something I'm in favor of, especially as I've done more like streaming the events and kind of spectating. I think the pause on the gameplay is actually kind of a big deal. I think that it's easy to downplay once or twice, but really when it happens every single time through the top 8, it kills the flow. There's also a lot to be said about the huge comebacks we've seen. The Yagami versus Chanel, the exhibition after the Pakistan versus Korea, where Numan fought Lohai. Numan fought Lohai in the Steve Mirror, and from down to 5-1, I think he pushed for an almost full comeback to final round 6-6. These things happen less, I think, with more coaching. You get to see less of these big swings or kind of noticeable, perceivable adjustment points when there is an extra cognition feeding you the things to lock in on, right? I think it's definitely a good thing. There's nothing new I have to add except for the fact that I'm happy to give it up for the sake of a better
we've been
experience.
abusing it. Oh my god. Bro, FDX in Tekken 7 was great. He played Noctis. He had like 3 modes. I just had to tell him what mode to be in, and he'd win the whole tournament.
What are those modes? Forward 1 plus 2 mode, forward 1 plus 2 mode, forward 1 plus 2
Eagle
mode.
mode, basically.
Basically, yeah. You know? There was a mode where he didn't press a button. There's a mode where he played long range buttons, and a mode where he played up close buttons. And then I could just tell him when to switch into those against the guy he was playing. He just win every time.
Nice.
It was insane.
Yeah, I mean,
like Final Fantasy.
even as a commentator, I can say that oftentimes I see other commentators, and I've been guilty of this in the past, and I've stopped doing it now, where let's say someone loses really badly in game 1, but then he gets coached, and in game 2, they're like, damn, what did he tell him? And sometimes I don't think they told him anything. I think more credit needs to be given to the player when a comeback is made. Like, imagine you guys are in this situation, and all you guys watching at home.
Speakix adjustments feed gameplay like
you're in a
a
set,
Kingdom Hearts AI.
just got your ass handed to you. You
Shit
already
is
know
genius,
what to do. Someone
though.
comes up to you and says, "Hey, relax, man. You're looking a bit stiff. Just enjoy yourself. You got this. You're a strong player." And they go off. No coaching. There wasn't any specific Tekken coaching, right? But then he kind of calms down, and then bodies the person 6 rounds straight. But then the commentators are like, oh, I wonder what that guy coached him. The coaching definitely worked. We have no idea what was told to the person playing, but we're giving credit to this guy that just went up there and said, hey, calm down, man. So I think even as a commentator now, I'm definitely I'm not giving credit to coaches when they go up and say stuff. I'm like, man, that was an amazing comeback by the player. You know, at the end of the day, the coach can't play for you, right? So even if there was coaching given, some advice, the person still have to implement it. So as a commentator, I'm definitely just kind of giving the player the credit there, man. But yeah, I think that we're all on the same page here. I think there's a great change. You know, at least if they are going to do a blanket ban of coaching, this is a good first step towards that, where they allow the tournament organizers to kind of make their own rules about it. So good stuff there. There is something that I don't really have an opinion on, but I want to know what you guys think, and maybe some other people are going to be a little bit confused about it. But there was a change in regulations as well when it comes to the VSync. I mean, in version 2, a vertical VSync on and off setting will be implemented for PS5. What do you guys make of this?
It was good,
I
Toad.
guess it's a case of like, so the way it's worded makes it seem like VSync has always been on. Like that is
It
how
is.
the standard's been. VSync has always been on.
Yeah.
And they're leaving it on. So to me, it's like, okay, I guess that's nothing's changing,
Yeah.
right? But then I also want to see
Fuck,
how
man,
it
I have an
feels
eyelash
without
in
the
my
VSync.
eye.
Are we gonna get even better input? Like is input like gonna get better? Like is it gonna be more improved? But I guess for now, they're like, we don't want to do anything too crazy that's gonna alter tournaments or like mess up the stream, you know, because it could add lag with the capture cards and everything. So we're just gonna leave VSync on for now, test it, see how it goes. I think that's a fine way to do it.
Yeah, I know that VSync on gives it a bit more input lag, and with it off, I mean, it's a different game almost, I mean, especially considering the way that the Koreans talk. And I know at Red Bull Golden Letters, someone, and I don't know who it was, I had VSync on, I wanted to keep it on, that was the rule. I think someone in Joker's match, before the match, turned VSync off, and there was a bunch of screen tearing, and then, like, obviously there was less input lag. I
The
think he
coaching
lost,
basically
right,
takes
during
the
that
brain
game.
away from
I'm
the
not
actual
sure.
players,
Yeah,
is what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm
was
wrong.
playing during the set,
Yeah.
so I
Not
completely-
necessarily. It's more so that it just
Who-
gives like a competitive
I played
advantage
Shonen,
at
I think
times.
it
It
was-
can, but
his
it
English
doesn't
shouldn't stand up,
always
shouldn't,
do
like,
that.
I swear
But
I react to this
it can
normally,
definitely
what's going
affect the
on?
outcome, having basically
Yeah,
an
it
outside
was weird,
perspective,
but I mean, I think it's a big change. Speed,
and
having
someone
it like that,
going,
just-
Nah, it's cool to me. I think creating the option on console is actually
not
pretty
really
dope.
knowing how to
I didn't even
approach a
know that was, like,
matchup.
possible.
Yeah.
It's having it
so the
figured
fact that
out.
it's not locked
And
on
I remember when I
console
spoke with
means
Speed Kicks about this, the way he broke it down for me and gave me an example, and I think Fee was the person he was referring to in our conversation. He was telling me about this, where actually there was a couple examples. Actually, no, better yet, there was one example he gave me where he was like, so let's say you have a player who is really good at like the game plan or like execution part of things, maybe not so much the mental aspect, where like, how do I explain what I'm trying to say without trying to, we'll just use Fee because he said it in this video, right? So he said that Fee had 3 modes, right? He had 3 modes where he had to go into, and in order to help Fee win a match, all he had to do was tell him which mode to play. So Speed Kicks, being a much more experienced and analytical player and also having a different perspective from the outside looking in, is able to focus on what the opponent is doing without having to think about what he is doing, right? So Fee, in the moment, he's starting to think about what he wants to do, his game plan, these moves, his own combos, what his opponent is doing, the adaptations, et cetera, where it's like he can just focus on just playing and obviously trying to win, but not worried about the mistakes he's making or how to make any adjustments, just play, right? And so eliminate the amount of processing that he has to do and make the game a lot more simplified. And then he turn to Speed and say, okay, what'd you see? What do I do? It's like, oh, well, he's playing like this, so you should just play like this. And he's like, all right, bet. So now I don't have to put any thought or extra brain power or processing in the gameplay, like during the match. And now I can just, you know what I'm saying? I already know what moves to do or like how to switch it up because I had him focusing on that part of the game for me. Because there's multiple parts to fighting, right, an opponent. There's all the stuff that you have to do and then all the stuff that they have to do and the things that you have to do in response to that. But if you can eliminate the amount of things you have to think about and focus on one aspect, you can then increase your performance in that area and have somebody else who's really good at the other part. And you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of something I never really thought about before. And that's what Speed Kicks and Fee were doing because, you know, so yeah, it's not necessarily that like they're just like in complete control or anything like that, but it's almost like if you were able to have 2 players play at once. When you argue that it incentivizes more flowcharty offense, which you want to avoid, it can for sure, but then that's on the player themselves to not be too obvious and too repetitive and too flowcharty. It absolutely can, but I think that's unfortunately very powerful in this game, flowcharty offense, and they're going in that direction. So it's like how bad is it really? Especially when there's little to no counterplay to a lot of these options. Oh.
I might try to experiment with my PS5 and see how it feels VSync off versus VSync on console versus VSync off on PC versus VSync on a PC and see what the differences are. It'd be cool if they could figure out a way to turn it off without getting too much screen tearing, because then it'd make console tournaments just way better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the biggest weenie when it comes to input delay. Like if you add a few frames, I start tweaking. I'm like, this is all wrong. Like I'm not gonna be able to play, guys. Like so, I'm the biggest. Like if we can make it better, that's good. But and at the same time, when I played in the lockdown era TWT offline for NA, they ran it on PC for the first time, and there was so much screen tearing. It was like at that point, I would have rather had more delay, right? So it was like hard to see people moving. Like if there are errors where the screen is like it was really weird. It was like the screen was like flashing. It was genuinely one of the weirdest experiences I've had in a tournament, and that experience made me think like, okay, I would rather have to get used to the lag than get on a setup where the screen tearing might be more extreme than the screen tearing I'm used to at home, right? Or like if somebody has the setting different on a particular setup and the match gets played, like are people going to contest that? Is it just going to go through? I feel like it opens up more potential problems in a tournament.
Wouldn't the solution to that be monitors with adaptive sync, or do consoles not support that?
They said there was like a preset one.
I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Setting, right? And I think
I don't know anything about that type of stuff.
Obviously, having the option for the people at home, I think, is a win-win regardless. But in terms of tournaments, I think, like having a standard and being able to ensure the quality of how much screen tearing is happening, if any, is going to be pretty important, because it'll be pretty rough if it's like your first time going to a tournament, you show up on stage, and then you have this, aside from the lag, just like this new screen tearing experience you've never seen before. You know, I think that it's something to consider for sure.
For sure. I'm glad they mentioned it though. So shout out to them for mentioning the VSync. But next topic I want to talk about. Okay, we're gonna go into now the second talk. We're gonna talk about the characters, and one thing here that we saw that was implemented is the UI change, the counter. And I want you guys' opinion on this, man, because now it tells you in the game whether it's a counter hit or not. And Nee did make a tweet saying that he needs to actually get to play the game to see whether that's going to allow counter hit confirming to be easier with multi-counter hit moves such as G-clefs or, like stuff like Law's back 1-2-2. I'll start with you, Joker, actually, with this one. You can see it on screen right now. It says counter after Anna did her down forward one string. What do you think about this being implemented in-game?
At first, I thought it was going to be too much in the sense that there'd be so much clutter and whatnot. But with the way they've placed it and how small it is, I think it's good. In regards to the counterpart, I think, like what Nee said, I agree. We need to try it for ourselves. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, it'd be interesting if it does help with the counter part, like being able to confirm strings and whatnot. I think it'd be pretty strong. But at first, I wasn't a fan of the idea. But again, when it comes to the counterpart, I want to see it in play. And I think we don't just see the combo damage. I think that shit is kind of dumb. Like, why am I seeing me getting launched for like 100 damage on the screen, bro? Like, I know it does a lot of damage. Like, after I lose to someone, am I gonna shake their hand and say to them, "Oh, you hit me with a good combo that was 100 damage, nice"? Like,
you know what? I can see Kane and Trench doing that though. That combo, mate, 99 damage. That was beautiful.
I mean, yeah, no, Van, I feel where you're coming from. That's why the coaching debate is such a big discussion. That's why it was such a hot topic of conversation, and why players like SpeedKicks feel so strongly about it. He would agree with you word for word.
Like, that's optimized. That I optimize that combo, But yeah,
if it's up to SpeedKicks, coaching isn't allowed at all, which is ironic because he is a coach and he makes use of it. But he's just like, well, I'm not going to not do it and leave myself at a disadvantage. But if it were up to me, it wouldn't be in it at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like playing a fighting game and being like, well, I know my character has like this really powerful TOD that's really easy to use, but I ain't gonna do it because that shit's cheap. It's like, nigga, all you doing is holding yourself back. Like, I win more games if I did it, but I ain't gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, I'm gonna use it till they take it out because I would just be foolish not to.
Okay, and I just want to test it for myself when it comes to the counterpart for sure.
Yeah. Kairis?
Yeah, I feel I'm the opposite to Joker. I feel like in theory, I was like, oh, this is a good thing. And then I started to see it, and I was a bit like, I feel like some of it's a bit too excessive, like combo damage, combo hits. Like I know how many hits are in the combo. Like I'm doing it. And I think like
my thing is I'm pretty certain that the UI changes with the counter hits and everything like that. It's not meant for the players. It's meant for the spectator more than anything else. I really think that's an esports change more than anything for commentators and players watching matches. Now, it can help you as a player as well, particularly if you're like a lower level player, like intermediate to casual, anywhere in that range. But if you're, you know, these guys, you're probably not going to gain much from that. Unless when we get our hands on it, you actually can more easily confirm the counter hits on these like 3-hit strings.
But like, and I think like tornado, like I think some of it is a bit too much. Like, I know what's going on, but punish is also a bit too excessive. It happens a bit too much. But I don't know. I think as long as there's an option to turn it off if I want, or customize only some to turn up. I think they mentioned there's a version that only comes up above the life bar or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm misremembering, but
something I need to add, sorry to interrupt, is that obviously they're gonna have this as a standard for tournaments, right? So even if we do turn it off, even though we can toggle it, we're gonna have to get used to it for tournaments. Because
do you think it's gonna be default for tournament?
Yeah, they said that they want it to be easier for the commentators, for the viewers, and whatnot.
Okay.
So
that was actually going to be like my next point to make. Like, is it going to be tournament?
King down 4-2-1. I don't know if I think it's already going to be difficult with 3-hit strings, let alone with 2-hit strings. So we'll see.
I think it is best, obviously, for the viewer, right? Like, and obviously for commentators, like you don't have to be like, was that a counter? We don't know. You see counter right there. I do think in general counter hits have been normal to see in Tekken. Like, there's normally a screen zoom and a big bang. Like, you can tell, okay, that was a counter hit. But obviously some moves are different, and they're not all moves are like that. But for commentators, for viewers, I think generally it's a good thing, just to have that information there. But it might be a case of them like maybe caring a bit too much to new players there, you know, because they don't know what this is. They're not sure, and it's all there. I don't know. I think for viewers, for people like maybe watching a stream or something, like, was that a count here? I don't know. Well, now you know. But yeah, I think some of it is just like tornado. Like that's a bit mad, because there's a whole camera change when it's on it. So like maybe that's a bit too much.
Yeah.
Slow-mo. You can have a slow-mo counter as well.
Speed and fee, like okay, if it is a conversation.
When's the soy foam guide dropping? I still got a lot more I need to learn before I start dropping guides.
On the new UI changes, I'll start with you actually, Speed. What do you make of it?
I think these tournament
yeah, exactly, Caden. Exactly.
I think everyone complaining about this, y'all kind of, I'm a nerd, y'all some bigger nerds or something on this one. I swear to God, I don't know what it is. I think it's cool that, like, you know, some new player, someone who doesn't really understand Tekken can like look at Tekken and they'd be like, oh, that was a punish, or that was a counter hit. Okay, cool. What's a tornado? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like just having that stuff pop up and like introduce them to like the things that are happening in the game is kind of cool. But it's kind of ugly.
Oh.
So my problem is that like I think the combo damage is excessive. I think combo count is cool, and you can see big red life bar. Those numbers don't really mean anything to anyone who doesn't know Tekken
probably not
enough to understand that someone's getting comboed, right? So I think the damage is excessive. The way the color for the combo counter and the combo damage are like so different is also weird. It's like too focused when you're doing the combo. So I think that's the only problem. But the concept is cool to me, and I think if it makes counter hit confirming easier, like whatever, it's fine. I think.
Really? Is it fine though? Like King down 4-2-1. Let's say if it stays in the game.
Okay. So I think counter hit confirming in this game is already too easy. Like if we're talking about as a skill, because the big pink flare hit spark, you know, that comes up when you do the hit, right? It makes it so I can confirm Hwoarang's 10-frame counter hit without even going into the second part, unless the counter hits, because you can just see it. You have so much time to like process you hit someone a counter. So if you know to look for that, it's just a little marginally easier to look for the word counter on screen. Maybe you weren't a nerd who looked at the difference in the hit sparks. You're just looking for the word on the screen. It's the same thing.
Okay. So it's a similar situation.
I feel that.
A bit easier and maybe a bit more accessible. Feed, what do you think?
Big nerd checking in here. I had a lot of thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning when they talked about it, I put out a video. Actually, before they even announced it, I put out a video saying like Tekken doesn't need this. And it started because there was like a tweet conversation about Brian doing a combo and then getting flashed after. And people are saying, why does Yoshimitsu get this punish? And then people did it frame by frame on that tweet and it showed the big counter hit spark. So he mashed after and Yoshimitsu just got a counter hit flash. And so, yeah. So I talked about it, how the counter hit spark has already given us everything we need and more. If you even go to like older Tekkens, it was super hard to counter hit confirm things. Like the camera might not even zoom in, you know? And I talked about it from the perspective of,
I will say, even knowing DBFZ and Tekken and other games, giving exact numbers is strange. Giving the exact numbers for the combo damage is different, but
in those things, that kind of improvement is really cool to me. So at first I was super against it. And then when they actually demoed it, so like in the Asuka versus Reina showcase in the Tekken talk, right away in the first round at like 58 seconds, Asuka hits a counter hit forward 2. The pink spark is almost going away, and then the text.
Okay.
So from a counter hit confirming standpoint, I think the developers actually really thought about this, and they were like, we want this to strictly be beneficial to viewers, right? And I think that was a pretty cool thing right away that immediately shifted my perspective. I also come from that like kind of old Tekken mindset of like, I loved how minimal the game looked compared to say like Anime Fighters or things like that. I knew exactly what
here's my 8,000 damage combo.
On-screen text would make me,
especially because normally when you're referring to the combo damage in a game, most people just go by percentages because you can just give a rough estimate. Like no one ever goes like, here's my 200 damage combo. It's like, yeah, this combo is about 30-40%. You know what I'm saying? Like
that the
my 50% combo.
It's a little too much information. Like we can see health bar going down.
Like, oh, he hit me with this one move and I lost 20%.
Maybe tone down on that.
Shit like that.
I also think is a bit excessive. K-Wiz said, I'm doing the combo. I know how many hits I'm doing. Me personally, I forget. So it's going to happen. But I also think, you know, you could go either way with that one. But I think, especially after having worked with so many people who have just started in, things like Punish will really help a lot. Things like Tornado, you would be surprised, especially if you're a Tekken veteran, how with so many things happening on the screen, your opponent doing so many things, you're taking in all this new info. Even like the stages have more visual information than they used to. It can be easy to just, your brain will gloss over the fact that the camera zoomed in and sound, you know? So I think those tiny things I've become more in favor of as I saw how they implemented it. I do hope they clean it up. I do hope it like stays out of the way, just because I do prefer that minimalist Tekken vibe and look. But yeah. I think it's not as bad as I personally thought it was going to be. I was like dooming about it. Guys, like, we don't need this at all. Keep it out of Tekken. And then I'm like, it's okay.
I do wonder if it's going to make a difference for the multi-hit moves, like Nee was saying, like the back 1-2-2, which is quite delayable and confirmable. So even if the back one is on hit, you know, honestly, sometimes I can't tell if Law's back one is a counter hit or not. And it always impresses me when people confirm that, because it's not very easy to tell visually. But if I really do feel like the back 1-2-2 might be a lot easier, and moves like that. Sorry, Rip, I'm not trying to just like I'm not trying to just single out Law, right? But I think that honestly there might be some characters that have a lot of time to delay their string or confirm their counter hit, that if the counter thing comes up, it just makes it a lot easier. I think it's not a bad thing. I think it's fine, but it's just something to consider. Talking about something to consider, though, we have Anno that is shown that she can actually apply a debuff to other characters. This is something completely new that has not been seen before. As you can see on screen, guys, a new stance into 2-2-2, and once the I think one of the Katsu does it, you'll see here that there is a purple aura around the character, around Nina, on her character's picture on the top corner, and as well as a body. You can visually tell that there is a debuff. Now, what this debuff does is that it allows Anna to deal chip damage with every.
To be honest, both as a player / competitor and a viewer, I prefer not having the side notifications. In the training mode, sure, but during a match, it just seems distracting for me at least. I'm also riddled with ADHD, so the motion of it coming in and out might distract me. I can see that. I don't think I'm going to mind it too much, but it's optional, so you can turn it off if that's how you feel.
I think it's a fantastic change, just keeping the game fresh. They're adding something new. I think it's good that we have something.
Yeah, Dragon Ball FighterZ actually has a bunch of Easter eggs like that when it comes to the damage values.
I don't like it. They need to change that, in my opinion. I don't like what they're doing with that, and I think they mentioned in Heat she does more chip, which is I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan, honestly. Again, they did talk about before. They wanted to nerf chip damage and whatnot, and then they got this new debuff state, which is amazing. I don't know. Again, I'm just gonna wait until I play for myself, but it doesn't look good. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay, Kobe, Kavis?
I like that's my main thing is like they mentioned we're gonna tone down chip damage. We understand. We saw ETC finals. Like we understand how annoying chip damage is. And then Anna comes with a debuff that applies chip damage to everything. Like, and she could do it on block. You block the string, and then everything. Like to me, it's like the
Bro.
direction is confusing because why say that and then
Bro.
give her a debuff? that gives chip damage?
Kavis looks like he's in the debuff right now, bro. Look at his camera. Kavis got debuffed.
Bro, like, I could talk about it. I have the debuff right now. Like,
Guys, it sucks.
I don't. It's terrible. Like, I don't understand. And I think what Joker said is right. Like, like eventually this is gonna come to more characters. Like, this is how.
Yeah, the chip damage on throws, like I
Beast was the
just
first
can't
character
get
to
behind
wall
that
bounce. Then
at
everyone
all.
gets wall bounces. Falcon Ram, Lydio, the only ones that have guard breaks. Steve had a guard break. How many characters have guard breaks now? I feel like this is the first step for characters that have more debuffs that deals kind of chip, and it's like, but why?
Yeah, like I
say
said,
the
it's like
first
it
thing?
really feels like getting punished for playing good defense, and that's kind of how Tekken 8 feels right now at times
I just
anyway.
want to say, what if? What if this?
So
is
here's the
actually just
thing.
like-
I was thinking about this recently. I was thinking about this. I think about shit like this all the time, right? I just don't always have enough to say on a matter for it to be a tweet or a video or anything. But at times in Tekken 8, it really feels like you're being punished for playing good defense. I blocked that low, I blocked that mid, I blocked this, I blocked that. But then I had to remind myself that sometimes playing good defense means a lot more than just blocking well, right? Especially in a game like Tekken, playing good defense isn't always just blocking everything. It's I backdashed that, I sidestepped that, broke this throw, I ducked under this high. You know what I mean? Because I was thinking about like just all the chip damage you take in this game. It's like, bro, like I'm blocking and I'm just dying for it because the chip is so crazy at times. But when it comes to breaking a throw, like, yeah, sure, you could duck and punish a throw as well, technically speaking. But I'm sorry, breaking a throw is good defense, just point blank period, right? You could say that only blocking is bad defense, or could be at times considered bad defense, because like if you know you're taking all this chip damage, well then you have to be active, you have to take some initiative and strike back, you have to find somewhere to duck, sidestep, something, right? But your opponent hitting you with a throw and you break the throw, that's just good defense. You shouldn't be getting punished in any capacity for playing good defense there. I properly reacted to the throw, or even if you just guessed right, then why am I being punished for being right? I don't know. Kind of weird. Don't really like that one.
Thing, or just a couple of characters that may have weaknesses in other areas,
Yeah.
but their thing is that they can deal chip damage by applying this debuff. It's not going to be a universal thing, but if it's like an Ana only thing, I think that's really cool actually. Speakers, what do you think?
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm not inherently against this idea of characters applying debuffs that do chip damage, right?
I am.
My main issue, because I played like 2D fighting games, and there's a lot of 2D fighting games where characters have like unique mechanics, like they just game defining mechanics on one character alone, right?
How do you think
like,
they could fix that? You just shouldn't take chip damage when you break a throw.
Bong in Street Fighter 5 and Aki in Street Fighter 6, right? But those characters are designed around that, right? They're designed around applying the debuff and the game plan around actually getting the debuff off, and then how much reward they get when their opponent is poisoned and stuff like that, and not much else. They don't have much else. So when you play that character, you really feel, I have to do this. I have to make this mechanic work for me. With Ana, they showed off her having a pretty solid punish game, pretty above average mix-up game from standing, above average stance mix-up game, obvious heat strength, right? And then so everything strength that every other character has. If you gave her that alone, you would say, okay, this is a really strong mix-up character. Why are we giving her a unique game mechanic along with that goes towards heat, where we had, or goes for chip, where we had characters like Kuma, who was designed kind of
It's
almost
a
like
great point that I didn't consider.
That was
Like
kind of
normally
his
when you
main
see a
thing.
character in a fighting game that has some shit like that, their
And it's
entire
both a
kit and
chip
design
character
is
and a
based on
mix-up
that.
character and
She just
a
has it
polished
for the fuck of
character
it.
and a neutral character. Like it's too much, right? There's no definition here.
I think that if they want to, I agree with you. I think that similar to King, right? King is a grappler. Yet we see the John play King and he doesn't grapple. Like, you know, do you know what I mean? Like he has won tournaments by using forward neutral 2, down 4-2-1, jab. That's it.
Don't forget muscle armor. Muscle armor.
Oh, muscle armor,
That's
of course,
important.
yeah, muscle armor,
even,
of course. He
Even when
spams
it
that, yeah.
doesn't go off. Yeah, even when it doesn't hit, he just does it in neutral, kind of let him know.
Yeah, having one of the best defensive options in the game, the muscle armor. You know, preventing the opponent from being able to do any running moves and getting them scared, and it's like
King is a grappler
So like
that
but he
niggas
has
be
all
winning
these
with
moves,
without
he's
doing
supposed to
any
be a grappler,
throws.
So
that's
why not
cool.
kind of, you know, buff the throws, but you know, maybe nerf some of the other things like having the best counter hit tools in the game.
So you know what they did?
I don't know. So yeah,
Instead of nerfing a
I'm
bunch
not
of all his
against
other
the
tools that are
debuff
like
thing, but I
very
think
clearly like overtuned, it's not like his throws are bad. His throws are actually very, very good. But instead of like making his moveset revolve more on like, no, like you need to use these throws, so we're gonna tone down some of these other tools that are really strong. Like, no, clearly we need to make the throws even better. That's the problem.
that if they want to,
I know he has the best counter hits, crazy rage, good pokes.
What do you think?
I feel kind of like an old head. I'm like, the first thing I think of is like, well, what's next? What's the next gimmick they're gonna add? You know what I mean? And I think it's, we've seen gimmick creep in some extent in this game. So I think of like a character like Yoshimitsu. To me, he's had this like, the Flash was a unique move, his own gimmick for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And they designed his entire character on his ability to not just flash, but also.
I mean, King has weaknesses. I'm exaggerating and talking shit, right? King definitely has weaknesses. He's not a perfect character. I just think it's interesting that they look at the tools that he has, and we're like, the problem here is that his throws aren't strong enough because his throws are really good.
Tekken 8, where characters are keeping their gimmicks and getting strengths overall. I also think immediately of my experience of coaching newer players. And already the move sets alone are so overwhelming to learn. Like, what does my opponent want to do? And then adding
everything,
a metagame gimmick on top of that is crazy too, right? So I think that I personally miss kind of having a character's gimmick be built into their toolkit. Anna's in crouch, I'm panicking, right? Like that's the like she punished me, I'm guessing. That was her gimmick to me.
Right.
Way before we got the addition of this debuff, right? I obviously, and that opinion to me comes separate of how strong the gimmick is. It could be a really overpowered gimmick, it could be a really weak gimmick, but I think just from the perspective of somebody learning to fight against a Tekken character, it's an extra layer of information overload that I think needs to be accounted for.
That's what I'm saying,
right?
Van.
Like Speed said,
I'm gonna use it though.
A gimmick character, let's design everything around that in a very like surgical manner. But I have a hunch that Anna's going to be doing to me what she did in Tekken 7 with more range, with a gun, and now I'm taking chip.
Yeah.
And how will I explain to somebody that like you're concerned about the crouch, you're concerned about this? If you turn purple, now you're taking chip damage. It's small by itself, but when you add 35 characters and you start adding more and more characters, I think it's really a lot to consider.
Something I want to add is I just think they're implementing these new like gimmicks or mechanics or whatever. I think it's all testing for the future. Like we saw this with God breaks with Fakram, and everyone eventually got a God break. I think it's the same case. I feel like everyone's gonna eventually have a debuff state, which sounds fantastic again.
I think like I said, I don't mind it if the character if that becomes a part of that character's identity. Not that, because it's not a part of a character's identity if everyone has it. So I'll give you a very good example. Look at Tekken 7. We had characters that had 16 frame launches as their fastest launches, right? Zafina, Marduk in the past in Tekken Tag 2, Anna, Raven. Now, Raven still had the 16 frame with the down 4-2. Anna's down 4-2 was 16. Bob didn't have a 15 frame launcher.
Yeah, I've been live for almost 8 hours, Oko.
Given 15 frame launches. Bob up forward 4, Anna down forward 2, Marduk down forward 1 from tag 2 to Tekken 7. And it was a little bit annoying for me because I feel like one of the things that was so cool about those characters is that they had to work around those weaknesses, right? It's like, okay, especially in this game in Tekken 8, rage arts are minus 15. So you look at Jun Kazama, for example, her hop kick and down forward 2 are both 16 frames. You can't launch a rage art with that character. You have to use down back 1. And I think that's a weakness of the character, not a crazy one. Down back 1-1 still does a lot of damage, but it's a weakness, right?
Hey, your
and
guess is as good as mine,
one
Dan.
of the beautiful things about Tekken characters for me, and watching Tekken as a commentator and playing as a player, is to see players work around their weaknesses. And then I think as time has gone on, it's become a little bit more difficult to tell what a character's weakness is. If I ask you what is Jin's weakness as it is right now, I think it would be a very difficult question for you to answer. What is Jin's weakness? Now, Jin,
I don't think Jin has a weakness right now
because they're all down players, and I think I don't know if you're on something, but like they'll try to answer that question. They shouldn't. They should shut up. But you know, it's like Jin and also other characters as well. I feel like they've kind of homogenized a lot of these characters. But I think isolated, I don't have a problem with a debuff thing. I just think that hopefully it can be one of maybe
new Jin or current Jin, but new Jin
like
probably ain't got no weakness either.
I hope that there are some weaknesses of the character as well that you can clearly explain to someone who is new, who you're coaching, and say, this is what you watch out for when Anna's in crouch. Very very dangerous. Here's your counterplay and blah 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 blah. But here are some weaknesses that you can exploit against the character if you move laterally to this direction and this, that, the other. So I think that's what Tekken's all about. Let's hope that Anna is not going to be too strong. But talking about strong and Anna, this move here got everyone losing their shit. Here we go. Anna running 4 into the bazooka, and in heat did like 64 damage. Guys, what do you think about this? Kay, what's I'll ask you right now, man. What do you think?
Absurd.
I prefer not to speak.
Can you just play the Joker video? Is that possible? Because that's how I felt when I saw it, man.
Bro, let me see that again. Hang on.
He was like, "Are you taking the piss?"
Damage again. In heat, running 4, bam, bam, bam. And something that someone said, I forgot who it
Hey,
was.
good shit, Ash.
Anna could do it.
In fact, do I got any free packs? Let me open my Pokemon pocket.
You're gonna have to take that. That's scary to me, man. I don't know. I mean, it's just.
I should take a nap soon, so that way I can be awake when the new packs go live tonight at 1 a.m. Eastern. I think it is, right?
It goes
Right, chat. The new packs go live 1 a.m. Eastern tonight.
He engages R plus 17. That low is what I-16, and it's safe in heat. You can't low parry it. You can't sidewalk it. You have
I got 2 free packs. Let's see if I get
block
anything.
it or take the 60.
I went and bought a
damage
bunch of
plus the
gold
engage.
in preparation.
Yeah.
Yo, I wonder, her down for it too still launches crouch, probably, right?
Yeah.
So it's as simple as guess for your life, right? Like literally for your life. Like I can do the low, I can do the mid. I'm plus 17. I can do what I want, and it's safe. It's safe on block.
Yeah, it does say though counter hit, and this is something I didn't notice. It says counter hit, so I wonder if it's a counter hit NCC rather than an NC.
Yeah.
Because if it's NC, bro, that would be insane.
Bro, it might be natural, man. Honestly, it might be natural.
But
I got
don't know,
Probo
man. That move is a
Pass.
bit crazy, but I think one of the craziest things
Lovely.
about this move, counter hit or not, is if you block it. I think that it's
My
very
entire
difficult to
For You
punish it.
page,
It's
friend
not-
groups in
it's
existence
not
have been up in arms on
punishable, right? Like,
Tekken.
let's have a look here
Yeah.
what happens. So Anna's in heat, does the thing. I think there
Same.
is time between the first hit and the second hit for you to maybe get like a punish on it. But if you don't, then yeah, you're not punishing that. But look at the pushback. That's crazy, man.
Yeah. Didn't it walk rush?
It does,
Yeah,
yeah.
it did.
What on getting a buff? Probably.
There we go.
I don't know what though. But it'll also likely get some nerfs because they hate that character. The wall crush is crazy. Yo, talking to Angela, thank you for the raid. I greatly appreciate it. Welcome to the Rose and the Flowers and Lotus Asakura, the one who never knows best, the Hanakage Hanagakure. Currently watching the Heat Speak podcast, going over the thoughts of some high-level players and creators over the Tekken talk that just took
It's
place
crazy, man. Like, I think this move
a
is
couple of
a
days
big
ago.
Problem, the whole design and concept of it, and I just hope
giving us a preview at
It's
season
not
2 of
bad.
Tekken 8.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope there's some real counterplay. But I mean, we can't judge it before we get the game. And I know there's people that get really angry when I say that. Like, yeah, you can judge it, Spag. You're seeing it right now. But like, let's I guess we can wait. But I guess I know what you guys think about that. The final thing. So the final thing I want to say about about Anna is this right here, the Heat Smash. Now, when I was
The Heat Smash is
Koreans in the last
insane.
TeamSpeak, we had Ni, CBM, Ulsan,
That Heat Smash
on
is
the show.
absurd.
And I asked them, like, what was something that you guys are like a little bit, you know, what do you think is one of the bigger problems in Tekken 8, you know, that you guys find? And they said that Heat Smashes are a bit too strong. And then they, so I see Anna's Heat Smash here. They showed that it has high evasion, and it's a 13 frame wall splatting, wall breaking Heat Smash. What do you guys think of this?
Again, I think a fantastic Heat Smash. I think Anna needs it. No, I think this is a big problem, man. I-13, they even said it high crushes. I think this is not good. We've seen, you know, Kuma's Heat Smash, and I don't like how someone like Anna has this as well. And I think it recovers in full crouch after on block, right?
Really? Does it?
I think
That's
so.
what they said.
Oh boy!
Which is like,
boy! I didn't know that.
Like, there should not be a mix-up situation after Heat Smash on block. Like, we need to get rid of these situations. It's not good, and especially
What did he say?
after Heat Smash on block, there should not be a mix-up situation after Heat Smash on block. Like, we need to get rid of these situations.
I think there should be more variance by character. Some characters should, some characters shouldn't. Which ones should and shouldn't, I don't know off the top of my head. But like rage drives, I kind of look at Heat Smashes basically like rage drives to some degree, right? And certain rage drives gave you a mix up. Same thing.
It's not good, and especially when Anna's in full crouch.
Now, what should never happen is getting a mix up on hit, in my opinion. That is far more egregious. Looking at you, Xiao Yu. Anyway.
I don't want to guess. Please just leave me alone.
Do you agree with that, Fee?
Yeah, I immediately tweeted and said we need to have a conversation about these 13 frame high evading Heat Smashes. And as the talk went on, it feels that high evasion is a feature. We saw Azucena's new low, the full crouch one, intentionally evading a Jin high.
Yeah.
Right. So, in general, this also added to the whole like, well, how are we supposed to defend against this? Truly just a stand block or crouch block? Is it a sidestep? Is it a sidewalk? Is it because mashing is now being taken out of it, even like a jab? So, and I think that
Can't imagine them giving you mix on hit. Xiao Yu gets it. Xiao Yu gets a mix up on hit or block with her Heat Smash.
Reduces in the amount of gameplay we get, and I think the amount
That's
of
insane.
gameplay as a defender is something that may.
I don't really buy them getting a mix up on block, to be honest.
I think it's not just
On hit is crazy though.
the fact that like the power level of a jab being evaded, but again, that new player frustration.
And it's only crazy because
Generally
Heat Smashes
thought that your
already
jab
do
is
so
a
much
fast
damage.
move to
It's
try
like
and
now I
stop
gotta
your
hold a
opponent
mix
off.
up again.
Yeah.
Well, there's an exception. It's if they're in heat, then all of a sudden your jab doesn't mean much, right? So you really do have to guess. I think
If they took it away though, I wouldn't be mad.
experience is a frustrating one that may not be getting enough consideration. In that defenders want options too, even at lower levels, right? Like
For sure.
I want to hit somebody out of the offense because they're pressuring me. You know?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's something to consider.
I for 100%. I think, you know.
Please tell me
From
they
what we're
nerfed the mid crushing moves in this
saying
game.
is,
I
I
doubt
think
it, but we don't
from
know
the
until
beginning of
next
this
week.
podcast, what we've been saying up to this point is that I think giving
Personally,
making
I'm of the
nerfs to
opinion that
certain
nothing
characters
should
and giving
ever
the
crush a
defender more
mid,
options
but
isn't gonna make the game too much less aggressive. Or
I don't know.
less
Maybe
overall.
somebody
I just
smarter
think
than
that
me
it
has a
just-
counter
it
argument
just,
to that.
Makes the mind game of the game a lot more fun. A lot, not overly complicated, but just a lot more fun to watch. You know, so you know, look for example at Kuma. I say to everyone, if you're playing against Kuma, if he's in heat, do not jab. Don't jab, because he has an electric that goes under your jab, cleanly beating your jab, and will launch you for God knows how much damage. But he also has a 13 frame high evasion Heat Smash as well. So
There's no
I mean,
such thing as
the
a mid
jab
crush.
is
Some things can
completely
evade it, but
taken
that's
out of the
it.
game.
I know that like there's no actual like mid crushing moves. Like it's just low crush or high crush. You don't have to explain that to me. But there are many times where a character does a move that goes under my mid. And it's not necessarily a super consistent thing, but it's something that happens far more than it should. Yes, the fuck there is. I mean, like there is, but like generally speaking, we don't really consider like, oh, this move is a mid crush. You know what I'm saying? It's not really like a like a. I'm getting really tired, so I'm starting to get brain fog. So I'm having trouble articulating and thinking. But like, I can't even think of an example right now. But it happens. Like we all know it happens. Like we've all had a character go under a mid before, right? I just don't think that should ever happen. I guess unless you're Xiaoyu and AOP, because that's her fucking identity, stupid ass. But yeah.
Game when you're playing against Kuma and you have a jab, do not use it. That is, I mean, and most Kuma players will tell you that as well. And I think that's a problem. It's like when you have, like what is the counterplay? I think it's kind of scary, man. But yeah, either way, that's the heat smash. But let's move on to something that I think Kwis and Speakix are going to be very opinionated about, and it's the key charge change. So key charge no longer grants a counter hit on hit. It now just gives you an extra 50% of damage. Kwis, I know they specifically mentioned Hwoarang and how broken Hwoarang is, with down back 4 being one of the best lows in the game, giving 1 million damage. What do you think of this, man?
Down back 4, one of the best lows in the game? Oh, that nigga hates Hwoarang. It is what it is.
This is bullshit, bro. I'm sorry. Like, this is actually, bro. Like, here's how I look at it. Like, what is the reason to just completely destroy what key charge was for so long? Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, key charge has been extra counter hit, what gives counter hit. It is literally high risk, high reward.
Literally.
I don't understand how that is technically a bad thing. Like, it's high risk, high reward. You know, there's a lot of low risk, high reward in Tekken 8. Like, this is just a nice high risk, high reward thing. Like, and again, if I do the key charge, you can just stay down, you know, at one hit and then it's over. You know, it's like, I'm very confused as to why they showed Hwoarang doing it too. Like,
it's a big middle finger to Kwis specifically.
But like, yeah, I don't understand why you would take this out. Like, and my theory is, remember like Akuma's jump over in Tekken 7?
Yes.
So instead of nerfing that for Akuma, they took out jump overs for everyone. And Akuma could still do his jump over.
Yeah.
I think it's a case of they think this for Hwoarang was too strong. Instead of nerfing Hwoarang specifically, it's just okay. Key charges have to their utility has to change. But yeah, I'm now key charges are just for BM. You know, that's the only time you're gonna see a key charge.
I wonder what the utility is. Joker, what do you think about this change to key charging?
I know
you
in particular
didn't use key charges at all. There wasn't much setups you could do with.
I honestly been playing more Reyna than Hwo lately. I'm having a lot of fun learning more about how to play
I
Reyna.
really don't care. I just remember like I played Kwis before the Tekken talk, and he was just using this shit. And
Actually, no, that's a great example, by the way. I'm not gonna lie. Yoshi Hopkick or Hopney beats like my highs and mids way too often, bro. Way too fucking often. Like way too often.
Man, I wonder what Kwis is thinking. But yeah, I don't really mind this too much. It's whatever to me.
Okay, yeah, cool. Speed?
Whatever, man.
Interestingly enough, I don't really care. I didn't
man.
use what?
You get 150% damage scaling after a key charge now. So what if niggas just start replacing their key charge setups with throw mix-ups? Like, it's still reliant upon you. Well, it's not at, well, certain characters would benefit. Well, I mean, that was already the case. I'm sorry, I'm not finishing any of my thoughts. Because like you get 50%, I assume it would apply to a throw, right? If you get an extra 50% damage on a throw, and you're playing a character that has like a 40 damage throw or something, right? But even just like a regular throw, and if they just don't break it. But if you're playing like King, and you do a fucking giant swing after a key charge, even if I'm playing like Hwo and I do like one of his throws, like I do QCB QCB 3, or even like my right foot forward 1+3, or no, is it not 1+3, it's 2+4, or I'm playing like a Mishima and I do Stonehead. Nigga, doing like 70 damage off a throw, and just, or if you're King, like especially if you're like King or Jack.
Bro, you know, if a lot of times if your round came down to if you did or did not land a key charge setup, you weren't
Paul Deathfist. Yeah, that was the first one that came to my mind during the stream. I was like, imagine getting hit by a Paul Deathfist after a key charge now.
You didn't deserve it. I'm just throwing that one out there. Anyway,
a lot of throws are multi-hit and it might just count for the first hit.
But
a lot of them are single hit.
I don't care.
The ones I was thinking of are all singular hit.
But it was a bit weird for them to kind of just show it off. Like when
key charge giant swing into the wall.
Been hit by a key charge and thought, yeah, this should be out of the game. You know,
that shit might be a TOD. A key charge fucking wall splatting giant swing from King. That shit might be a TOD, bro.
I mean, like it's never been something
that might be
was like
guaranteed
a
death.
Big like important thing, and I think some people liked it. So I don't know why they decided to not only take it off or like remove it, but showcase it in the Tekken Talk. And then the response was Harada's response to it, like people talking about the key charge thing, was also kind of wild to me, because in the response he basically said, yeah, key charge was something me and my buddy made up in like 5 minutes, and it wasn't supposed to be that big of a deal. So, you know, why do you guys care that much? And then he went on to say, like, yeah, the taunt's like the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Basically saying that, like, yeah, these things have been part of the game forever, and I know you guys are like super obsessed with this game, and like you guys love all the mechanics of it, but any of this could go, right? We could do this to anything that you like about this game right now, today. It could be gone. You know, there could be no more. What do you like about Tekken rounds? We can make it 2. We can do it. We can do it all. None of this matters, right? So I think that response was pretty wild. I think, you know, I think people might be overreacting to the key charge thing, but I think just going ahead and saying, yeah, none of these core mechanics matter at all to me, like, wasn't the move.
Yeah, I think it's not just the Hwoarang players. They showed Hwoarang here, but a lot of characters could actually do cool stuff with key charges. Like if you look at Asaka, she has a key charge tackle. She might still have it, to be fair. But she also she was very dangerous in key charge. You know, if she could do Can's launcher and then just hit you with a 1+2, which is a safe mid launcher. And I think I was always very scared, but also very excited watching players go into key charge to try and make that comeback. And I remember Black Kazama. Shouts to Black Kazama, a legendary Asuka player from Tekken 7. And this guy would always, when he's about to lose, key charge. And then he would do key charge, and then you'd be like, I need to attack him because I don't want to get hit. And then he'd rage art, bro. And it's like the most big brain thing ever, right? Like your key charge, in a key charge state, you can't actually block, right? And then this guy will see you run up, he'll see you running to him and he'll do a rage art, man. But it was fun to watch, you know, and his player expression. I want to read, you know, Rip, obviously Rip, a legendary commentator and player. He was not happy with this because, of course, he's been around for a very long time, and he's known to have a bit of a, you know, he has a very unique playstyle with Law. You know, it's very fun to watch. It's very effective in the first.
Well, if you got hit with key charge, it was basically GG's. Not really.
Shit, without calling him shit.
I mean, no. I said he's unique and he's very good in Versa 2, bro. I didn't say you shit. Look, he's instigated. Don't listen to him. We're not there yet. We'll get there soon. Key charge. No longer giving counter hit is the worst change since removing jump over wall tech catches in Tekken 7. They took something that was situationally character specific and nerfed the entire game because of it again. So, I mean, he wasn't very happy with that one. Svi, I mean, you're the last person to ask about this. What do you make of the key charge thing?
I heavily agree, and again, it's one of those things I'll say that it's a difference between power level and design that I think needs to be looked at carefully. So, like, if the concern was that people are stealing rounds and people are getting robbed and like losing too quickly off of it, you could always have made a change. Like, if you get a key charge counter hit, the scaling goes crazy, right? Like, like you get less combo damage. But I heavily enjoy ideas or mechanics that come from players who think outside the box, right? And I think that you've had players who have formed an identity around they could do a crazy key charge setup. They have layers to that mind game. We see it occasionally in tournament. Like, I think Kunimitsu was doing that in late stage Tekken 7 where she would key charge from a distance, and now her full screen
I'm
dash
about to
is
play Tekken with
is a
Battle
lot
City
scarier
rules.
because the 2 counter hit options can launch you.
Mid and low, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm a big fan of player expression, even if it may not be the most competitively viable thing, even if it's something that never shows up in tournament. I think, like, if you think of a couple friends playing like a Discord or something like that, and one of them shows off this setup because it'll know to work against his friend. I like ideas like that, you know? I think that it doesn't have to be about competition or like even like a funny clip that gets posted. I just like the idea of player creativity, and of the reduction of that is something I'm not a fan of. Again, regardless of how strong it is. It could be the weakest thing, it could be the strongest thing. I like the options to be creative.
Yeah,
I think one quality of life thing as well is like, say you're like labbing a new character and you want to do see what something does on counter hit. You now have to pause, go to the menu, turn on counter hit. That's a small thing I just realized.
Yeah, it's just funny looking at you, Kairos, because you I can't get over that you're debuffed, and we're watching you. The key charge setup's gone as well. It's not looking good, man, but it's okay, Kairos. You're gonna survive, man. It's all good. My opinion is very similar to Speakers, I think, and feel like I think that it's sad that you know, there are some players who had this kind of expression and it's gone. I don't think key charge was a problem. I don't think anyone was complaining about it, so I think it's very strange to me that it was changed. But either way, let's see how it works out in season 2. But next up, we have here another change: realignment on combos when you sidestep. So this is something I'm very interested to see what you guys think. I've seen actually different opinions here. I've seen some people be very angry, some people be kind of whatever. They're like, I don't care. But as you can see on the screen right now, ladies and lads, Jun is sidestepping and going for a launch, and still, and you see Jin will actually realign so the axis of the combo is straight again, so that Jun doesn't drop the combo. And Jun is actually one of the characters that the back 4-2 actually would whiff sometimes, right? Fee, I'll actually start with you this time. What do you make of this change here of the realignment on the combos?
I didn't like it, and I want to get more info on how specifically it behaves. I wasn't able to really tell, was it the first launcher, like a multi-hit launcher that does it? Because they showed Lydia as an example, like sidewalking far, and then it realigned, and people were kind of like, what? But it already does that. We tested it in the current version. So it's a matter of how extreme is the realignment? How does it realign every hit mid combo? Is it just the launcher? There's a lot of details, but assuming it's the kind of auto correction that I guess a lot of people are assuming, where every hit of the combo starts to realign it, I don't like it, because there are character specific combos that benefit from being off axis. Like,
right.
First thing came to my mind was like Lily do glide cancels. Like, she can do a bunch of extra cancels if she's off axis to the right. So if they're able to keep that kind of thing, again, in line with
Will this correct combos with built-in sidestep? I'm not sure. We don't know for sure, but
complaints people in my
potentially
was that I should be rewarded for getting a sidestep. I read my opponent, give me my reward. And while I can agree with that sentiment, I think again, what has kept me really interested in Tekken is all of this extra depth and complexity and expression that comes from being aware of these tiny differences. If I'm off axis, I'll adjust my combo. And I don't think it's the end of the world if you have to do a 10 damage less combo because you're off axis a bit, or you might even get a higher damage combo, again, depending on the character. So I'm not a fan of the change.
So let me ask you a question back then, because you have coached a lot of newer players. Don't you think that it is a little bit, let's say you teach a new player, completely new player, a bread and butter combo. They then go into ranked and they sidestep down forward 2 and they try that combo and it whiffs and they're like, what happened? I did the combo. Don't you think that that could be quite annoying for new players, and they'll be like, this is a layer of complexity that you told them that you got to change your combo when you sidestep right or sidestep left. Don't you think that adds a layer of complexity that might be kind of off-putting for a new player?
That's something I thought of early, and anytime I learn a new character, I always ask for like an axis stable combo. So every time I taught a new player, the combos we would work on any axis. So I would accept that they would lose maybe some damage in order to alleviate that issue. I felt like it was a thing that was like we could alleviate with the teaching method. And in the same way, when I taught people combos outside of their very first Tekken combo, I actually did it on a walled stage because I wanted them to see what could happen if you're doing the combo and it ends up hitting the wall.
Right.
And like maybe that's a few extra layers and a bit extra difficulty, but in games it happens all the time. So
that's
I thought
part of learning the game. Yeah, I agree.
No will work no matter of the action.
They just want to hold people's hands to such an extreme degree.
To milk
you
out
know?
more damage and start to optimize, you can dig into that, and there are resources. But for me,
and Fee, Fee raised a great point in return. It's like, well, there are combos you can learn that are just more stable and more consistent. And when I'm learning new characters, I do the same thing. Like whenever I learn a new character on stream, and I get to combos, right? I'm always like, hey, what's a universal combo? I want a combo that's just stable on most axes that I can use off of any starter. I'm not looking for like, oh, what's my electric combo? What's my down forward 2 combo? What's my hop kick combo? I'm like, no. What is a basic combo that I can use off any starter and is, you know, safe on whatever axis for the most part? You know, I have enough knowledge to where in game sense where I'm going to be able to make slight adjustments where I need to, you know what I'm saying? Just from my own experience. But like, you start there and then you work your way up, you know? And if you're a player and you're like, oh, I learned this combo and it didn't work off his axis, well, it's time to level up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, excuse me. Excuse me again. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it through this whole podcast, fellas, by the way, on stream, because I'm getting very tired. And this shit is way longer than I realized. We've been here for like an hour and a half, over an hour and a half watching. The premiere is still going as we speak, and it's over 3 hours at this point. And I'm getting very tired.
Give up the damage, let them figure out what they want later.
And I would like to maybe eat something and take a nap before,
You know, for me, it's kind of the same
in order
as the
to
key
be
charge
awake
thing.
for the Pokemon
I
shit.
don't care that much, but like, you know, to me, it just means there's a different threshold of where my off-axis combo.
And yeah, there are characters who like being off axis for
So
combos, like
where
Lily,
if
for
I was
example.
slightly off axis before, I would have to do the off axis combo. Now I have to be a little bit more off axis to do the off axis combo. And if it's only slightly off axis, I do my normal forward facing combo, right? It's not that the craziest change to me, but it's again one of those. It's like I said, like the key charge thing. They're just so willing to rip up like ways that people have already been playing the game, just kind of destroy like the skill that someone had gotten into. Or there's some people who, you know, who do spend their time like caring about these slightly off axis things, right? And it's just like seeing it kind of destroyed for very little reason is not cool to me, even though I personally don't care.
I see. Joker.
For me, I'm a bit conflicted. I don't like this change. I think again caters to like the newer players. I kind of liked being able to do and showcase like off-axis combos. I think it shows where a player is when it comes to their skill level. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this change, but again, I guess it makes sense since it's helping the newer players.
Okay, Kairos?
Kind of in the similar boat to Fee, and like my initial reaction is I'm not a big fan, but I want to see how extreme it is. Like if I'm literally like behind them and I launch them, are we going like full 180 and we're completely on axis? You know, I need to see. And again, maybe it might actually like screw more things up, because in the Lydia example, there's a point where they went for a jab and it whiffed because they weren't like she realigned a bit, but she wasn't completely on axis, so like the jab whiffed, so it might make things worse in the long run. But again, it's one we just really have to just wait and see how it impacts our gameplay, how other people use it. Can we still do similar combos or same combos? But like, I don't know, it's like maybe it's catering a bit too much to people who aren't willing to learn.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Eunice.
If you're off axis, you do the off axis combo, and like you should just be able to know that and do that. But I don't know, like, because sometimes I don't know, my opinions come from the point of, because I play this game so much, you should just know this, right? But like I don't know how like generally that works. But like, yes, like I don't know, just learn the off axis combo. You know, are they like, okay, people don't want to do that, we're gonna take them away for everyone? You know, it's like that's kind of the idea that I find worrying. But it's a thing we have to literally see for ourselves how it impacts other characters before we can like really make a judgment.
Yeah, and there's one more thing I wanted to kind of add. There's this idea that the developers have that if something requires an extra step to make work, then there's something wrong with it, right? There's this idea that like if I have to realign for my offense to work, this character needs a homing move, right? If I have to not play the immediate high of this string because there's no mid option, and instead of doing a high mid mix up, you do a finish the string or not finish the string kind of mix up, right? There's something wrong with this character. Give him a mid on the string, right? If your combo doesn't work because you're off axis, this combo actually is the system is actually broken. Let's fix that, instead of asking the player to do a different combo, learn a different combo, right? they want us to have to kind of do less to make things work and how they think stuff is supposed to work. But doing stuff is a part of why we play a video game. We play a video game to sit down and do a bunch of stuff and see who wins, right? So I think taking out all these extra steps to making the characters, the designs, the combos work is just removing gameplay.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons why I really love Tekken is actually because of that complexity, and I don't think it's over complicated. I think that it's like you said, you know, if you're if you're on a certain axis, then just do that combo. I think my biggest fear is what Fee said, which is, for example, let's say Lily, when she's she needs to be slightly off axis in order to get the back one loops into the combo, right? And I hope that isn't gone, because that is something that, as a viewer, as a commentator, as a player, I love watching people do those things. You know, it's like, oh wow, he just did an off-axis combo. That's super cool. I'm not saying that they're gone. Like Kay was said, we don't know how influential this is going to be or how significant. But I do hope that people can still be expressive with their combos, and especially when they have this kind of side situations. Because again, I don't think that it was a big issue. I don't think that it was like something that was obviously a problem, you know, for it to be fixed. I don't think it was broken for it to be fixed in the first place, right? It's like you could just do a different combo, and sometimes you could actually do a stronger combo if you're on a kind of weird axis. So yeah, I think one of the things I would love to say is just that I don't think that a character, like you said, Speak Up, just echoing what you're saying, that I don't think if a character has a weakness or some problem on the face of it, it doesn't need to be fixed. You know, I think
something requiring extra effort just shouldn't be thought of as broken.
Yeah, it just requires you to adapt, and I think that that's actually a beautiful thing, which once again gives a character that individuality, that kind of personality as well. It's like, okay, this character has this weakness, can't do the better button when you sidestep right at this angle or something. It's like, I think it's cool. So I wonder, we'll see how that change works out. Like Kay said, we're gonna have to wait and see. Now I have a bunch of right now we're watching on screen Reina versus Asakura. This was a quite interesting exhibition here, because we saw quite a few things. We saw the punish, we saw a lot of new moves. We saw Asakura that's clearly been buffed, right? Is there anything you guys want to mention about this when you watch this, your first impressions or what?
I really liked this gameplay. It's really cool.
Really? What did you like about it, Joker?
It looks like aggressive, and it
Starts
looks
talking about that type. I'm in the script. She's in the script.
interactive.
She was in the stream.
Interacting with each other.
Really?
No, if I'm being serious, when I first saw this, I was like, "Is this real?" I was surprised, like so many new moves into stance and stuff. It was crazy, man. Like, I don't know, even Asuka's like. There's a part where Asuka spiked them on the floor, and there's like 2 hits on the floor, like I don't know what it was, like some volcano or some shit. I don't know what it was, bro. It was so weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it was the new. I think it's either 11 or 12 frame punish. I don't know what it is, if it's upward 1 or something. But in heat, she can get like what, 50 something damage for.
Yeah, like I don't know what that was, man. It looked strange.
It was the new string, and then forward 2. When forward 2 is powered up with the Naniwa Gusto, it's like Jun's forward 2 being safe.
Yeah,
that's what
I think.
Like.
Reina
does it right around here, right at the wall.
Threat, though. We need to speak about that, man. That stuff was crazy, bro. I got a flashbang, bro. My eyes were hurting after seeing that for the first time, man.
What did you make of it, Fee, when you saw this for the first time?
The immediate things that stood out to me were Reina's new low, and then the heat smash low being usable at least twice, I think, based on how much meter it used up. And I talked about it a bit early in the talk, how I felt that Reina's identity was kind of built around having these insane mids and highs that cover many ranges and many speeds and have really good reward.
Yeah.
And I felt that the addition of these lows I need more bitrate on Twitch. I felt that the addition of these moves were, again, alluding to what Speed said about if a character requires extra steps, that's a problem. And the extra steps Reina players were often running into was how to navigate the fact that her lows were very unsafe, aside from sidestep 4, which is like not that much reward, and how to make her
that shit crazy
eyes hit,
yeah,
despite
Do you guys think that was splash? We should do a bet, you know? Does that wall splash?
It definitely was.
That shit's gonna
I
wall
will not be
splat.
able to see if it wall splatted or not. I felt like Reyna's new lows and the ability to heat smash low twice out of stance was a change along those lines of a character has extra steps and clear weaknesses, and that is a problem. And to me, again, we'll have to see what the counterplay is. Maybe, for example, after her running forest block, you actually are able to side heat smash.
Yeah.
But even if that is the case, I felt that the cool part about Reyna was I could watch.
No, the thing is though is that she has a. Unless they add something that beats homing moves, like I don't know, but she has her one option from Heaven's Wrath is a homing high.
And admire how they were able to succeed without those lows. Admire how they were able to find the low.
I think that homing moves are dumb. Nah, I like that homing moves exist. The problem isn't homing moves. The problem is these plus on block homing moves. I have this plus 4 on block homing mid. I have this plus 4 on block homing high. Like that shit is.
They get hit by like
homing moves exist because the game's a 3D game, so it makes sense because it creates a layer of depth where it's like the difference between this linear move that's powerful or this move, but it's sidesteppable. But if I think you're gonna sidestep because you think I'm gonna do this move, then I get to use the homing move to track the sidestep, right? So I like the existence of it. I think homing moves make sense.
Right? There's still things to move on and things to
but homing moves are getting incredibly powerful.
Maybe these lows are really bad.
Yeah.
But the feeling I got from watching it was that it felt like they were covering up more of her weakness.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like you got now a high crushing low.
Have they discussed or shown power crush heat engages being removed yet? They showed that in the last Tekken talk.
Tekken, you know, and I think depending on what it is on block and you know what it doesn't counter hit and all that kind of stuff, I think what I liked about Reyna was that she could use unbreakable throws, and those would force the player to want to duck if they.
But only for a couple characters. Well, did you think that they were going to get on stream and show it for every character in the game, or what?
Well. And again, like you said, it's covering an option, a weakness that I guess she had, and I'm hoping that she's been nerfed in other ways as well.
Patches next week.
Down 2 move, bro.
Patches next week.
I don't know. Did it was Look how far it went.
It's going to, man.
It's going to, bro. It's so crazy.
It's plus as well.
It's plus. Yeah. I think it's plus. They showed it was plus, right? So
right after,
and it does chip damage.
And she can go into stance afterwards, right?
Damn, I never even took notice of the chip damage.
And it does chip down.
It's plus. Yeah. I think it's plus. They showed it was plus, right? So
right after,
and it does chip damage.
And she can go into stance afterwards, right? So she's going into the stance. I don't know, the sidestep stance.
I play this character and I'm just like, really, nigga? You know what I mean? Like I play the character, I'm still looking at like, really, nigga? I can't even imagine if I played like King or Jin or Yoshimitsu and I was watching that stream. You know what I'm saying? Because I just... And like Reyna might also have some crazy shit, but the shit she got ain't even that crazy compared to what they got. And I'm just like, really, nigga?
Asuka hasn't recovered yet. She hasn't recovered yet.
Asuka's still recovering.
Yeah, still recovering.
Yeah.
That's Defo plus. Oh my god.
This is
Damn, how plus is that shit?
So, as you know, I think
damn, that shit.
We know the difference between a character that has a stance and like a stance character, right? Like there's, you know, a lot of characters have stances, but most of them aren't defined around like having a bunch of transitions and stuff like that. If you look at this, you'll see Reyna do the new low and then go into the little back step stance, whatever that's called, right? And then you also see her go into Sentai after the new low, right?
Yeah.
So, and the same thing off of Sentai 1. She can go into Sentai 1 and do the little back step stance, or she can continue to go forward like she can right now. And then off of the Sentai 1, the spin, the homing move. They do like the homing move into the little back step stance. I don't know the name of that stance.
Sentai 1. No, Sentai 1's the power crush. He's mistaken. Right? Yeah, Sentai 1's the power crush. Does he mean Heaven's Wrath 1? Or does he... No, he said the spinning move. She can't go from... Hold on, what's he talking about?
So she can definitely go into multiple... that's what that one. Heaven's Wrath.
That shit is crazy. Yeah. You know that.
Yeah. Heaven's Wrath one.
Yeah.
Right.
homing move.
into the was it Unsoku is about the name of that stance, right? So she can go into multiple stances from the same move, which is a mix up of its own. So
I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know you could go into the other stance from Sentai 1. Or Heaven's Wrath 1. You can do that? That's news to me.
not only will you have to guess what they're going to do when they're in the stance, you have to guess what stance they're going to go into when you deal with the move, and then also the Heaven's Wrath. She can go to Heaven's Wrath off of Sentai 1. Like everything, she has too many stance transitions, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully, right? I don't know what nerfs she got. So maybe the nerfs justify whatever else they're showing here.
Yeah.
But that would require a lot of nerfs because you know what I mean? We're seeing a lot of additions to her character design, which means it'd be a lot of nerfs required to make that balance out.
Right. Yeah. We're hoping that Reina has been nerfed in other ways, so that these strengths that we're seeing from her in this first one can be, I guess, justified, if that's the right word. You've been a bit quiet here. What are you thinking, man?
The thing is, there was one part where Reina did heat engage. I think Reina did heat engage into.
See, here's the thing again, is that like I talked about this in my video, but I like stance characters. I like mix up stance characters. Like that's part of the reason why I play Huarong in the first place. It was good, Tendo. I like that archetype. It's just that it's not unique or cool anymore because literally everyone is doing it now. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason why I picked Huo and Reina. I like stance characters. I think it's really cool. But that shit ain't cool if every fucking character in the game does it. It's just something that everybody does now. You know what I mean?
Did the full crouch version, but still did a running move afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that extra, like it's like, because okay, I take Anna for example. She can do heat engage, and she's almost always
No more nerfs, Reina.
crouch, right?
I don't think Reina needs any
But then
nerfs.
She can also have access to the.
I think she's in a really good
that-
spot. I think she's a
running-
strong character
running
that's not
side,
too
thing
overpowered,
like,
and she's
why,
know,
I feel like
got some
if you
powerful
go into
tools.
crouch,
But
you
I thought
should
she was in a
still
good
have
place
access to
where
the
she
running
didn't really need
moves
anything to be
after the
nerfed.
added additional plus frames, from like doing a slash. I think it was here. Yeah, here. So she did the crouch version. She did the little crawl, and then did running move afterwards. And it's like, okay, so I have to worry about a crouch mix up, but then also then doing the running move as well and keeping that pressure. And there's like, just when I first saw this gameplay, there was just so much going on, and like Asakura, that new punish, and
that low also guarantees something you just saw there on counter.
Yeah, it looks like.
Actually, didn't it guarantee what's the Sen option?
Sentai.
Yeah, that move, that low on counter hit guarantees Sentai 2. Honestly, it might also guarantee Sentai 3, which is a heat engager, which is crazy. So
Sen mids, which means she can do Sen 3 then, right? Because Sen 3 is faster.
Yeah.
So she could do Sen 3 for heat engage after this.
That's pretty
after
cool.
this.
yeah, it's pretty lit.
I want to add also, having worked with so many like straight up beginners to Tekken, that even dealing with Reina's forward 2 into Sentai stance, which was one branch and very fixed options, was very hard to train them to be able to handle that. I think we take for granted how we can process that as like
Shit, it was very hard for me to learn how to deal with Reina.
We can compartmentalize.
Part of the reason why I started playing her was to get more familiar with her animations.
And Reina already has a lot of animations.
Because everything
that
she
look
did looked the
very
same to me at
similar,
first. And I
especially
couldn't
to a
tell what
brand
the
new
fuck she was doing.
Now that she has extra branching options off of new moves, I think that, again, accounting for what the experience will be like for the player on the other side of Reina is something that may not be getting enough attention. Even if there is reasonable counterplay, and maybe it's not like a balancing issue, is it like what is the experience like for somebody just picking up the game? It's like, oh, she's spinning at me. I guess maybe I'll hit my button. My jab got evaded. I won't hit a button. I'll sidestep,
Listening to them talk, I don't think they care.
Facts.
I don't think that they consider the part where you start looking at what your opponent is doing and trying to deal with it as a critical part of the Tekken experience.
Clearly,
it's because right now they're obviously the focus on the new players and stuff like that, right? They talk about the act of learning attack patterns, learning to do them, and making the other guy deal with it. Never have they spoken with learning to deal with it, right? They never talk about how trying to introduce players into understanding what their opponent is doing. They never talk about how to introduce players into learning to, you know, neutralize what's happening to them before they go into their own attack patterns. It's more of a they see in the game as just attack versus attack, right? So
I low key might become a full-time Reina main. We'll see.
If your opponent gets new attacks, and everyone should be happy if they all get new attacks, because we're all doing attacks at each other as opposed to dealing with them and paying attention to what's happening to you.
How would you remedy that?
How would I remedy that? It's a design choice by the developers. I think they have to just recognize that the Tekken experience, when you learn, you know, first you learn all your moves, right? You learn all your moves. You learn how to do your attacks to the other guy.
I want to see those Reina nerfs. What would you even nerf on Reina? What
the
makes
game
you think Reina needs to be nerfed
after that? If you aren't supposed, if you don't go into the part of the game where you learn how to deal with what the other guy's doing, you make your attack. You learn how to make your attacks really strong, and then you learn how to make the other guy's attacks weak.
What is Heat
right?
Speak?
That's the
Heat Speak is a podcast created by Spag
for just a couple months, even
discussing Tekken 8 with high-level players and
that's
creators.
where a lot of the player base gets to, and that's where they start getting frustrated, and that's where they start getting annoyed. So even if they're happy in their first couple of months,
their stance options,
right, eventually they'll have to start dealing with the other guy.
I mean,
they have to recognize that as a crucial part of the player experience.
We'll have to be a lot more specific than that.
Okay. No, I agree with you. I agree. I think that for me, bro, and Joker knows this, yeah. I still don't know what Reina's doing, bro. This
down forward 14 forwards broken.
Doing this, and every time I see a Reina player and I'm sat next to Joker, I'm like, Joker, is that a new move? Nah, she's had that since the beginning, bro. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I always see something new every time I watch a Reina player. So yeah, I mean, now there's, like you said, Speed, like we actually saw it in the video that she can transition into her stance from more moves now, and I think it's just so much visual noise. I think it's scary, like, and I do hope that the nerfs do balance that out, but I am not, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna help too much, but yeah, I mean, Reina looks very, very strong, as does Asakura. Multiple characters here. I don't want to show all of them because we're gonna be here forever. But
right, I think
Azucena,
before we actually get into that, I'm actually gonna call it here because I'm getting extremely tired, and I will listen to the rest of this probably on my own time. But if you guys would like to check it out for yourselves, here is the link to the video on Spag's channel. But I think I'm gonna wrap up because I'm starting to fall asleep. Your boy been live for 8.5 hours, and I did not sleep properly last night because I never do. So yeah. Oh, I should have actually ended probably a long time ago because I don't have a YouTube video ready to go. What am I gonna upload today? Well, I've been streaming for 8.5 hours, so maybe we can call that my upload for the day. Part of the reason why as well I want to get back to multi-streaming because I feel a lot less shitty about myself if I have a stream bot up on both Twitch and YouTube. Makes me feel like I'm being more productive even though I'm doing the same amount of work. Anyway, to those of you on YouTube, greatly appreciate everybody for hanging out. Slap a like on this video on your way out. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see y'all soon. As for you guys on Twitch, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for the subs, the gift subs, the bits, the follows, and everything like that. I'm going to send y'all over to K-Wiz, who is playing some Tekken. I should be back around 1 p.m. Eastern for Pokemon. We will be doing some live pack openings. I normally just do those off stream as a recording, but we're going to do them on stream for the first time. I think it'll be fun. You're streaming that? Yeah, I normally don't, but I think it'll be fun. So, I will see y'all soon. Later tonight. Y'all be easy, man. Later.